Welcome back to the channel, ladies and gentlemen. Today we're going to be covering what would happen if Naruto had one for all. And you might be thinking, okay, so Naruto's going to be able to run really fast and punch really hard. And well, technically that might be true. Naruto's also going to be having this, and this. So if you're excited to see Naruto punch really hard, then do me a favor, hit the like button. Oh, and before I forget, the video was commissioned by this absolute Chad right here, so shout out to you. But with that said, I have one question for you guys. How far do you guys think All Might would genuinely get if he was to run the gauntlet in the Naruto universe? I'm curious, so let me know your answers down below. But with that said, ladies and gentlemen, grab your snacks, grab your popcorn, and enjoy. We begin our story off on Naruto's 16th birthday because in this timeline, the characters are going to be aged up just a little bit for Naruto's body to actually be a more proper vessel for One For All. Because if I give the ability to Naruto at the age of 12 years old, the dude is literally going to be popping just like All Might said would happen. So we're going to be scaling everything up, but nothing's going to change. Their powers and their abilities that they have at the beginning of the story is all going to be the same. Everything is kind of a compensated for. And all the crazy events like Itachi killing the Uchiha clan and all that stuff, that happens a few years later, with the conflict starting a few years later as well. But with that being said, let's get into the actual story. And the way that I see this actually all playing out would be with Deku actually arriving in the Naruto timeline. Now, as Naruto would be pretty much blowing out a candle on a cupcake he had gotten himself, Naruto would kind of just sit there in his house kind of lonely, hearing that there was nothing there. Naruto wished that he had some friends to come over and cheer him on or give him a gift or just spend time with him, but Naruto knew that wasn't a reality he was in for. Naruto would put his clothes on, grab his things, and go out for a walk, thinking to himself that his birthdays suck. They're just yearly reminders of just how lonely he is every day. And as Naruto would be walking, he would continue walking more and more and more, until eventually, Naruto would make his way towards the outskirts of the village very far. About 2 hours had passed, and Naruto would just been sitting there with nothing but his thoughts. Eventually, however, Naruto, spotting a black portal with purple hues coming off of it, would go towards it, be like, what? What's that? This is when all of a sudden, Naruto would see blood and half of a person's body come out on the ground. As Naruto would get closer, he would see the hair of a green-haired boy, Izuku Midoriya, who in this timeline had lost in the war arc and had fully pretty much gotten as strong as the one that we get in the original, where at the final battle with like the last chapter of the manga, Deku actually ended up being defeated by Shigaraki via Kurogiri being introduced to the mix, and he like kind of cut Deku in half, similar to what he was going to do during the USJ, where Deku literally gets cut in half and arrives into the Naruto world practically already dead. As Deku's clinging on to life, holding on for his last couple of seconds, he would look around, seeing the greenery and the scenery that's there. Deku in this moment, through blurry vision, would begin looking around, wondering where exactly he's at, knowing that he's only mere moments away from death. This is when a young Naruto would rush over to him saying, "Dude, are you okay?" And as he would go over to him and see the split body of Izuku, Midoriya would look at him with like a kind of like a half smile, trying his best to force it, fighting through the pain. Naruto would ask him if there's anything he could do for him and what even happened to him. As Izuku would cough out blood trying to talk, he would say, Take my quirk." Naruto, hearing this, would say, "Quirk? What are you talking about?" And this is when Deku would look at him with this expression and seriousness. The same energy that would have been felt when Stain told the heroes his convictions would be felt in this moment, as Deku would tell him to take his quirk and save everyone. It'd be at this moment that Deku, pretty much going on to grab his hair, plucks out a little hair and holds it to Naruto, telling him to eat it quickly. Naruto, seeing this, would be like, what? You can't be serious. But looking at Deku's eyes and seeing his deadpan expression, he would just be like, right, just feeling intimidated by Deku. He eats it, and as he stares at Deku, Deku would have one last smile as the blood pool would fall down completely. And as Naruto would be watching this dude, he would wonder what the heck that was all about, as he would then hold his stomach thinking that he can't believe that he got intimidated into eating that hair. This is when, realizing that he had a person dead at his feet, Naruto would think to himself, oh man, how am I supposed to explain this to anybody? When suddenly Naruto would decide that it's probably for the best to just bury the dude's body. So Naruto, running home, would go to grab a shovel as the dude would quickly rush back to Deku's body. And once he arrives, Naruto would start digging a pretty deep hole, placing his body into it pretty carefully, Naruto wearing some gloves, as Naruto would cover him back up with the dirt, and then find like a nearby large rock that Naruto would begin dragging closer and closer. Naruto, placing the gigantic rock on the ground, would then grab like a little kunai that he had in his pocket, as Naruto would proceed to carve "Rest in Peace." ? Naruto in this moment would realize that he didn't even know the dude's name. And so, after this would be all over with, Naruto would think to himself that that was such a strange way to spend his birthday. It'd be at this moment that Naruto would put his hands behind his head and begin walking home, currently being covered in blood. As Naruto, making his way inside of his house, he would proceed to throw his stuff off, get ready, and pretty much change for the next day, which, funny enough, would actually be the day of Naruto's graduation. So, technically graduation test. As Naruto would go to the front of the classroom about to perform the hand signs for the shadow clone, Naruto would fail once again, as people would begin laughing at him, and Naruto would try to play it off as though it was a joke or he didn't care. Believe it, Naruto would say, as he would turn to the class telling them all that he was going to become a genin one way or the other. This is when Naruto, sitting back at his desk, letting reality finally sink into him, would realize that now that he had failed for like what seemed to be the 100th time, Naruto would realize that he's probably never going to become a ninja. He would start to pretty much ponder whether he's even worthy of carrying that title. This is when he would start questioning his dreams of being the Hokage or anything that he had wanted to do. But suddenly, as this would happen and Naruto would be giving up on his dreams, this is when Mizuki, going over to Naruto, would ask him whether he truly wants to become a genin. This is when Naruto, giving in to him his desires, would go on to take a bite of Mizuki's apple, and this would lead Mizuki to tricking Naruto to stealing the scroll of sealing, which ultimately leads Naruto to learning the multi-shadow clone jutsu and eventually have our encounter between Mizuki, Iruka, and Naruto. As Naruto would be sitting there, this is when Mizuki would say, "Naruto, hand the scroll over quickly." As Naruto would be about to do this, he would hear a scream coming from behind. "Naruto, no!" This would be Iruka, who, coming over close, would be trying to stop this from happening. Naruto in this moment would turn around to go to say, "Iruka sensei, you're here too?" But it'd be in this moment that Mizuki, screaming out, "You fool!" would throw a demon wind shuriken to the direction of Naruto, who, barely being able to react to this, would watch on as Iruka would turn his back to Naruto and tank the entirety of the blow. As Naruto would watch on, looking at Iruka sensei's eyes, Naruto would say, "Iruka, you're..." But Iruka, coughing out some blood, would say, "Naruto, you have to get away with the scroll. Don't let Mizuki get his hands on it." Naruto, hearing this, would say, "Right," and it'd be in this moment that Naruto would start running away. And oh my, dude, I just realized something insane. Naruto has something in his arsenal that is gonna make his control of One For All great, no matter if he can control it or not. And I can't believe that I didn't consider this before making the video. Naruto has shadow clones. So that means that even if Naruto's shadow clones were to throw punches and not be able to hold the force of One For All within them, they are still able to throw 100% smashes, kicks, punches, or flicks, and then be destroyed. And because Naruto has such an insane chakra pool and One For All doesn't drain his chakra at all, bro, this is... And the clone's destruction and using those abilities, the damage will go back to Naruto, so maybe he'll learn how to overcome the... Bro, that's insane. Naruto might just be the perfect character to wield the power like One For All. Imagine a character like Twice having it, or what's that one teacher who could pretty much make clones of himself? Mr. Clone? Yeah, no, that's definitely not his name. But anyways, getting back into the serious tone into the story, as Naruto would run away, suddenly Mizuki, trying to act as though he was Iruka himself, would try to use the transformation jutsu to trick Naruto. However, Naruto, seeing right through this ploy, would tell him that he's not a fool, as he would pretty much threw a kunai at him, to which Mizuki would say, "Damn it, Naruto, how did you know?" And as Naruto would run away, he would scream, "It's because you forgot to put the damage that Iruka took with the shuriken." This is when a couple kunais come flying at Mizuki, and he, seeing this, dodging out of the way, would then turn towards his direction asking, "You still intend to get in my way, Ruka? Don't you see? This is a pitiful effort. Why are you trying to defend the damn Nine Tails?" This is when the whole monologue stuff between Iruka and Mizuki happens, which would ultimately lead Naruto to experience the same emotions that we have him go through in the original timeline. So, as Naruto watches on as Mizuki's about to kill his sensei, Naruto would step forth, telling him, "If you ever lay a hand on my sensei, I'll kill you." This is when Naruto would form the multi-shadow clone jutsu, and all of his clones would throw massive punches. This would ultimately lead to some Naruto's creating the same wind force that All Might can create with his punches. So out of the hundreds of clones that are there, some of them channeled the rage and were able to use One for All subconsciously. So as they threw those blows, this means that part of the forest would actually be blown apart, and Iruka would be sent flying backwards, knocked unconscious. Iruka, however, would die practically instantly, as Naruto would have thrown multiple One for All smashes, and the real Naruto laying on the ground, having been blown into a tree in a literal near-death state due to the fact that he had just taken the brunt force of a ton of smashes being sent in the same direction. Naruto would be fading in and out of consciousness, as he wouldn't even be able to feel the pain in his arm. This is when an unconscious Naruto would end up seeing himself inside of Kurama's domain. And speaking of Kurama, do me a favor and go check out What If Kurama Took Over Naruto. That's my birthday special. Me and that one, we worked so hard on that video, and it just kind of sucks seeing that the video didn't get the views I think it deserved. So go check it out. I promise you guys won't be disappointed. It's a banger of a story, so check it out if it's something that interests you. But with that said, let's get back into the story. As Naruto would wake up in a hospital bed, Naruto would be overseen by Hiruzen, who would be staring out the window saying, "Oh good, you're awake, Naruto." This is when Naruto, turning to Hiruzen, would ask what happened, and Hiruzen would go on to explain that he saw everything from his crystal ball, as he would begin explaining what he had actually seen. This is when he would break down the fight. Naruto, after creating hundreds of multi-shadow clones, would have actually reeled his arm back, and a couple of them would have released punches so powerful that they caused that entire section of the forest to practically be destroyed. 1/3 of that entire forest area, and the weather itself changed. He would even go on to tell Naruto that it was almost like a hurricane had gone off in the village. He would ask Naruto how in the world he was able to perform a feat that powerful, explaining that not even the legendary Sannin Tsunade could have pulled something like that off. Naruto, looking at his arm and seeing the state that it was in, would be stunned, thinking to himself, how did he do that? He would look at Hiruzen and tell him, I don't know. I guess I just reacted? He would hold the back of his hair with his good arm as Naruto would look towards Hiruzen with a chuckle. Hiruzen, looking to Naruto, would shake his head going, "You are an anomaly." This is when, out from his pocket, he would go on to take a shinobi headband. As passing it on to Naruto, he would explain to him that though he didn't technically pass the test, he thinks that being able to take out a Chunin ranked ninja should definitely give him the qualifications to become a genin. Naruto, in this moment receiving his headband, would stare at it as tears would begin forming in his eyes, and Naruto, as he looks at Hiruzen, Naruto suddenly would feel a headache. He would think, what? When suddenly, all at once, Naruto's memory would almost come back to him. Naruto would feel a shock as Hiruzen, staring at Naruto, would ask, "Naruto, are you okay?" This is when suddenly, as these memories would begin coming flooding back into his head, Hiruzen and Naruto would both feel a strange chakra in the room. This is when Naruto would feel his arm kind of glowing with a red energy, as Naruto, seeing the chakra visibly, would think, "What is this?" His claws had grown, his teeth had become more animalistic, and as Naruto would have this moment happen, Naruto suddenly would go back to normal. Naruto then would turn to Hiruzen and say, "The Nine Tails! I saw the Nine Tails! He spoke to me!" Hiruzen, looking to Naruto, would ask him what he said, which would lead Naruto to staring at Hiruzen with a confused expression, as he would say something about him not being alone and vestiges or something like that. As Naruto would be holding his head, Naruto would think, it hurts to remember. As Hiruzen, noticing this, would tell Naruto to stop trying to remember. He would then go on to inform Naruto that this is something they can find out on a later date. For now, Hiruzen would stare out of the window as he would think, what did the Nine Tails want? This is when he would go on to tell Naruto that tomorrow when he's healed up and better, he needs to hurry up and report to Kakashi Sensei at training grounds. He would go on to tell Naruto that he was placed onto Team 7 alongside Sakura Haruno, to which Naruto hearing that would say sweet, and then he would say Sasuke Uchiha. Naruto at hearing that name would go almost sour, as he would stare at Hiruzen thinking to himself that sucks. In this moment, Hiruzen would go on to tell Naruto that it's great that his arm magically healed, knowing the truth that it was Kurama's chakra. Although while Naruto having a big bright smile would say, right, that's what I think. As then, Hiruzen leaving the room would check out, and Naruto, who was still left inside, would wonder what exactly had happened. This is when Naruto would start having multiple memories start hitting him, and Naruto would fall into full unconsciousness. As Naruto would wake up in a strange world, Naruto would look around to see vestiges, 9 people total. And as Naruto would stare at their fully formed bodies and Naruto all he had was his hands and his eyes, Naruto would stare at them, to which one person in particular would stand out among the rest. Izuku Midoriya. Walking over towards Naruto, he would go on to tell him that he's glad he got his quirk. As Naruto, trying to grasp at his mouth trying to speak, would stare at Deku with like a weird expression. Deku in this moment would smile, telling him that he went through that too, telling him that it gets easier. It's at this point that Deku would go on to turn to Naruto and explain to him what happened. Do you remember the day that you ate my hair? Well, it wasn't like you had just ingested something for no reason. I passed on to you my quirk, or how you would probably know it, my superpowers. That day that you had seen me, I had just finished a battle against the greatest villain in all of history. Shigaraki had won and Kurogiri teleported me to your world. I don't know how it happened, his quirk must have awakened, but whatever the case, now you have the quirk and it's in your world. So you have to make sure that you're responsible for controlling the quirk properly and using it well. He would then aim towards the direction of Naruto's hand, telling him that at the moment, his body can't handle 100% of the power, to try to channel it throughout his entire body, to squeeze his butt cheeks and from the depths of his heart scream, one for all. Naruto hearing this would say one for all, as Deku would then go on to tell him that he doesn't have much more time, but he would tell him to be careful with his power and to not give it to anybody else. Naruto hearing that would say, give it to... when suddenly, Naruto would find himself back awake in the real world. Hours had passed, and Naruto sensing that he was late for Kakashi's training. Naruto grabbing his things and rushing there would get there as fast as possible, seeing that the rest of the team, well, they weren't even there. Naruto seeing that would be like, where's Kakashi? As Sakura would say, oh Naruto, you're finally here. She would go on to pretty much explain that he had still not gotten there and that he was late, as Naruto turning to Sasuke would simply just see him nod. Naruto would take a seat, and a few minutes after this, Kakashi would arrive, with Naruto thinking that if anything, he's lucky. Not only did he get to oversleep, but he got here and didn't even have to waste his time. Naruto at this point would not be outed out by Kakashi because he had no idea, and so, as Kakashi would go on to explain the rules of the bell test, Naruto would be itching to try out his new power. So the second Kakashi would say go, Naruto, using the newfound power within himself, would do exactly what Deku had told him, clenching his butt cheeks and from the depths of his heart screaming, one for all! Suddenly, Naruto's legs would propel him towards the direction of Kakashi so fast that he would have actually overshot and not been able to control what he was trying to grab, which were the bells. But as Naruto would land on the ground, Naruto would notice that both of his legs were practically purple, just like Izuku's get whenever he overuses his quirk. And as Naruto would see his legs in this state, Naruto would be like, it hurts, it hurts. Kakashi going over to Naruto being stunned at his speed would instantly analyze what had just happened. Naruto had used some sort of ability that was way too strong for his body to handle. Maybe similar to the 8 gates, Kakashi would think, but this is when Sasuke out of nowhere would attempt to steal the bells using the commotion, which ultimately fails and leads to the both of them being tied up to the post. As Naruto would sit there, he would wonder what the heck had just happened. This is when he would go on to realize that this power truly is way too much to handle, and he would then remember Izuku's words, use a percentage called full cowling. As Naruto would think about this, he would think, okay, so next time I use it, I definitely can't go full throttle. Kind of like I'm throwing a punch. I gotta hold back. 10%, 20, 30, 50, 60, 100. It'll work something like that, right? Naruto trying to channel 10% into one of his fingers would flick as a bit of gust of wind would shoot out. Naruto would think, that's right, That's how I have to use this power. And as Naruto would be sitting there with broken legs and a dumb expression, Sasuke would turn to him saying, "Don't you get it, Naruto? We're stuck on these damn posts." This is when his stomach would grumble, and Sakura, hearing this, loving Sasuke above all else, would be like, "Oh, are you hungry?" She, being like, "Screw the rules," would feed Sasuke, and Naruto's stomach would then grumble as he would watch on, desperately wanting to take a bite. Sasuke, turning to Naruto, would then look at Sakura as he would say to feed him as well. Not because they're going to be needing him for the team, but more specifically because Sasuke is not a jerk. So as Sakura would be about to do this, this is when Kakashi would arrive, informing the team that they had passed. They, all hearing this, would be stunned, wondering how in the world that was, as Kakashi would go on to explain to them the true nature of the test, saying that the real test was to see if they had teamwork, that most Genin should not be able to take the bells from him, with exception to Naruto. He would then ask him what the heck that was, and Naruto, turning to him, would tell him that it was some sort of strength boost Kiki Genkai. Naruto in this moment would convince Kakashi that that must be the case, and as Kakashi would listen to this, he would think that yeah, it has to do with some sort of jutsu, but he would then go on to pretty much tell the team that they pass, explaining his usual line of those who abandon the team are scum, but those who abandon their teammates are worse than scum. After this would take place, Naruto would pretty much end up being untied, and they would all make their way towards a ramen shop. Well, with the exception of Naruto, who, mind you, still hasn't even eaten. Because at the current moment, Naruto would actually be at a hospital getting treated for his legs. They'd be using medical ninjutsu to help him out, which would definitely help a lot, but that's all Naruto has at the moment. As Naruto would sit there in the bed, Naruto would start thinking of ways to use this power more effectively. And Naruto, being the dunce that he is, wouldn't be smart enough to realize that by simply using shadow clones, that the damage that they take doesn't matter to the actual output of the quirk that he's using, wouldn't be able to put two and two together. Because keep in mind, if I give Naruto this ability off the jump and he's able to throw 1,000 one-for-all users at someone with 100% smashes, that is just going to be completely unfair. So we're going to hold off on that until at least the Land of the Waves arc. But with that being said, as Naruto would sit down on the hospital bed and feel that his legs clearly weren't going to be working for a while, Naruto would wonder if there's any way for him to get healed like he did last time. This time, however, it wouldn't be that easy, and Naruto would actually have to remain there during the time that the rest of his teammates would actually go on to do E and D rank missions. Naruto would arrive at Hiruzen's office the day that he was finally back in action, and as Sasuke and Sakura would both be there, they'd say, "Hey, why did Naruto get to skimp out on those weak missions?" This is when Naruto would go on to say because his legs were broken. He would say he wishes he could have been doing those missions instead of laying in a hospital bed all day, and Sasuke would tell him to just get stronger if he doesn't want to break his body whenever he uses it. Naruto, gritting his teeth at this comment from Sasuke, would say, "Why you? I ought to kill you. Believe it," Naruto would say, to which Sasuke, grinning, would simply turn away, Sakura watching him blushing, as Hiruzen would go on to say, now, I've got a better mission for you all, the Land of the Waves mission." He would go on to pretty much inform them about Tazuna the Bridge Builder and how he needs an escort. He would go on to tell them that it's a C rank mission and should be pretty easy. Considering that they have Kakashi in their ranks, they should complete this with no hitches. This is when Tazuna, walking in the room, would walk in a drunken mess, as the team staring at him would say, "Who the heck is this?" Hiruzen saying, "That is Tazuna." To which the team, seeing, would end up being like, alright. Tazuna in this timeline obviously wouldn't have the whole monologue moment of, "You're leaving me with children?" because they're 16 in this timeline, so he trusts them a bit more, just due to their appearance. But their strength is actually the same. Well, all but the exception of Naruto, who's going to be a busted character in this timeline. Anyways, with that said, as they would go on with the mission and the rest of them would pretty much get packed up for the next day, they would make their way towards the Land of the Waves, and as they're on their way, much like in the original timeline, Naruto would be completely taken aback when he has his first real-world combat experience. As the two demon brothers would lunge towards him, Naruto would freeze, not knowing how to react in this moment, as he would forget all about his power, freaking out at the fact that, hey, this wasn't no test battle or training, this was life or death. So Sasuke, saving Naruto, would turn to him, hitting him with the iconic, "You scared? Scaredy cat." Naruto, hearing this, would get pissed, and as the mission would progress, Naruto would be itching for an opportunity to show that he's not weak. It'd be at this point that as they continue on with the mission, they would eventually run into the demon of the mist, Zabuza Momochi. And Naruto, seeing this, instantly creating a couple of clones, would have them rush towards Zabuza's direction, with the clones being completely destroyed by Zabuza, to which he would then rush at the real Naruto, thinking of him as an annoyance, would suddenly be stopped by Kakashi's kunai, who would tell him, "Get away from my student." This is when a battle between Kakashi and Zabuza would commence, and as the battle would continue on, escalating further and further, until eventually Kakashi would find himself inside of the water prison jutsu. Naruto, seeing this happening in this moment, would begin feeling helpless as he would hear his sensei tell them to run, that they have no hope against this guy. Naruto in this moment would think, no, I do have hope, as he would begin trying to channel One for All through his body, similar to full Cowling, the attack that Deku uses. However, because we know that it took Deku at least an entire night to get the hang of 5%, I just don't see Deku being able to get the hang of it in this brief moment that Naruto had to try to have it happen. So, as Naruto would activate full Cowling for a split second, he would lose his concentration as the effect would wear off, and Sasuke comes in, defeating the Zabuza clone that would have tried to attack him. Naruto, seeing this, would just simply say screw it, as he would then go on to yell at Sasuke, "Sasuke, cover me!" He would then peel his finger back and flick towards the direction of Zabuza, sending an amount of pressurized air at him so powerful that it was capable of destroying Todoroki's ice attacks. This would send Zabuza flying across the water, skidding like a rock, as Kakashi would have been sent back flying as well, and as the two of them would get back up, round 2 would begin. The events would all lead similarly to how they do in canon, all the while Naruto in the back would be holding onto his finger going, "Ah, that hurt." This is when Sasuke, seeing Naruto's incredible strength just in one finger, would be watching in awe thinking, how did he? But as this would happen, suddenly Haku would come in, saving Zabuza from the team, as we would then get all of them returning back to Tazuna's house, or technically going to Tazuna's house, because they still haven't gone in the first place, which would ultimately lead us to what happens in canon, meaning the tree walking stuff to learn how to control their chakra better, all the while Naruto, while he definitely would have been, rivaling with Sasuke in that moment, trying to learn the chakra and stuff like that, I could see him also working on full Cowling on the side in the forest, which means that when he has his encounter with Haku in the forest in this timeline, Naruto would be exhausted from having trained full Cowling, learning how to control a grand total of 26%. And the reason I say he can control that much is because he's at bare minimum 1 year older than the 15-year-old Izuku, who's capable of using a significant amount of One for All, even with his less than developed body. So Naruto, growing up in a shinobi society, never having been much of a musclehead or meathead, would definitely be able to control a solid 26% without a hitch, pushing himself to 36% if he truly has to. But at that point, his bones start creaking and it becomes so much more difficult to concentrate. But with that being said, as Naruto would open his eyes, he would see a beautiful girl, or boy, which would be Haku, standing in front of him, who would be collecting some herbs. Naruto and Haku would go on to have their same encounter that they do in the original, and as they would finish, Haku would simply turn to Naruto and say, "Oh yeah, and I'm a boy," to which Naruto, hearing, would be like, "What? You're a boy?" Naruto in this moment would be looking at the ground thinking he can't believe he was just tricked by a femboy. As Naruto, looking at his hands, he would think, "What have I done?" As the story would progress, and we would eventually get the encounter between Zabuza and the rest of the team. However, much like in the original, Naruto would remain at Tazuna's house, protecting Inari and Tsunami thanks to the fact that he would have overtrained. And so, after eliminating both of the bandits using 36% of One for All, Naruto would rush to the battlefield faster than he would in the original, meaning that Naruto would arrive just as Sasuke would be trapped in the ice prison mirror. And Naruto, arriving just in time, would, just like the normal Naruto, speed blitz inside, being like, "I'm here!" This would lead Sasuke to be like, "You dope! You couldn't have stayed outside and provided assistance from there?" All the while Haku would watch on inside the ice mirror thinking, "I didn't expect him to be so foolish." But regardless, As Naruto would sit there looking at Sasuke, he would say, "Come on, get over yourself, Sasuke, let's beat this guy already." And so Naruto, charging his percentage up a bit more, would attempt to pretty much defeat Haku in any way that he can, trying to fight off against him, which would ultimately lead to Naruto getting skewered by a couple of Senbon, ultimately getting pissed and saying, "You know what? I'm done." This is when he would then create multi-shadow clones, and suddenly all of them, using 36% of full cowling, would begin jumping to different mirrors, trying to attack Haku as he would go to different ones, and tanking the damage of the Senbon. Naruto in this moment, not having realized that his clones could use 100% as well, and since they're clones, they wouldn't even take real damage. I mean, other than the fact that Naruto would lose out on that chakra, that's all there is to it. Naruto in this moment would have all of his clones begin to overwhelm Haku, who, being unable to even throw Senbon properly, would eventually lead to a culmination of multiple of them shattering one of the mirrors with like 3 punches simultaneously, as Haku, having realized that they're powerful enough to do that to his jutsu, would be absolutely stunned, watching on as these Naruto clones would rush at him and ultimately defeat him, breaking his mask, which causes Haku to be revealed. This is when Naruto, having defeated Haku, standing over him, would say, But why? Why are you working with him? Why in the world would someone as nice as you be on his side, huh?" All the while simultaneously, the sound of 1,000 birds chirping would be heard in the distance, as Haku, lunging his body in front of Zabuza to tank the blow, would die in front of Naruto's and Kakashi's eyes. This moment would cause a rage to overflow within Naruto, as his gaze would lock on with Zabuza, and he would think, "It's your fault." It'd be in this moment that Kurama's chakra would begin to corrupt the power of One For All, making it even more powerful, as Naruto, unconsciously unaware of this, would crank his percentage up to 50%. This is when suddenly Gato and his men would arrive, and staring at Zabuza and his pitiful excuse for a job completed, would say, I can't believe that even the demon of the mist, Zabuza, wasn't able to complete the mission. Guess you get what you pay for. You're garbage, Zabuza, and even your garbage teammate over there is paying the price." Zabuza would remain silent, as Naruto, staring at Zabuza, would say, "Aren't you gonna say anything? You're just gonna let him disrespect Haku like that? He loved you. He threw his life away for your sake, and you're just gonna let that slide?" Zabuza, hearing that, would then start having some tears come out of his eyes unknowingly, as Naruto, seeing this, would slightly calm down. This is when Zabuza, staring at the direction of Naruto, would say, "Your words cut deep, boy," as he would then go on to absolutely decimate every single person like he would in the original, and the mission would be over, with the bridge still being named the Great Naruto Bridge, with Sasuke in this timeline not having been weakened or even taken out of commission thanks to Haku's Senbon, and he would even get the added benefit of awakening the Sharingan like he does in the original. That said though, ladies and gentlemen, that's where I'm going to be stopping the recording for right now. I'm going to record 4 parts of this in total and drop it as a movie, but let me know what you guys have thought about this so far down below in the comments, and be sure to leave a like, seeing as this is for sure going to be a 2-hour video, and it's probably going to take me at least 10+ hours of working on this, so it'd be much appreciated. Anyways, I'll see you guys in a sec, and I'm back. Alright, so continuing the story where it had left off, after the completion of the mission would be over, the team would begin making their way back to the village, and it'd be on this trip that Kakashi would end up asking Naruto a question. He would ask him what exactly that jutsu was, now that he had seen it more in action far more closely and had gotten to see a little bit more of what it can do. Naruto, in this moment, turning to Kakashi, would go on to explain that when he uses that power, or Kekkei Genkai, or whatever they really want to call it, superpowers he'll say, he pretty much gets a strength boost, and it's all really just dependent on how much output he wants to use. He would go on to explain that from what he understands now, there's a limited amount that he's able to actually use, and then there's an amount that would destroy his body because it's just way too powerful for him. Kakashi, hearing that from Naruto, would nod and go on to inform him that it's very reminiscent to somebody else's jutsu, the 4th Raikage, a technique which pretty much allows him to cover his body in a lightning cloak and enhance his abilities. However, he would go on to tell him that he's never seen something quite like what Naruto has. A power boost that with just the flick of a finger can create such a crazy wind pressure that's able to send Jonin level ninjas flying back. Naruto would go on to tell Kakashi that he shouldn't be too impressed, considering the fact that he broke his finger doing that. He'd be like, "Look." Kakashi would say, "What are you talking about? It's already healed." And Naruto, looking at his finger, would then go on to remember the fact that when he had used Kurama's power, his injuries must have healed, because he didn't even feel the backlash of any of the Senbon that had pierced him during the battle. battle, because even though most of his clones had tanked it, Naruto definitely had gotten hit by a couple of Senbon here and there. And as Naruto would be staring at his hands, in the background you would see Sakura being like, whoa, that's awesome. You know, pretty much just not being able to contain how she's feeling at hearing the fact that Naruto has his power, all the while Sasuke would be looking at Naruto like a D1 hater, extremely jealous at the fact that Naruto has this strange Kekkei Genkai-like power and he doesn't. Sasuke would begin thinking to himself that Naruto has every advantage in the book granted to him. Not only does he have the 9-tailed Jinchuriki, but now he even has this strange power which is seemingly limited only to him. Sasuke would question Naruto how he uses this jutsu, and Naruto would look at him and tell him it's not a jutsu, with Sasuke being like, I suspected as much. This is when Kakashi, noticing that Sasuke was clearly getting a bit jealous, would start to change the conversation, ultimately leading us all the way back to the Leaf Village, where they would begin to tell Hiruzen of how things went down. Once Hiruzen finds out about Naruto's new updates, he would pretty much tell Naruto to stay back because he wanted to have a word with Naruto if he didn't mind. So, once the team would all leave, Naruto would be left with Hiruzen asking Naruto how exactly this power works now and wanting to see it for himself. They would make their way outside as Hiruzen would get a glimpse of Naruto's brand new one-for-all power, him seeing this energy sparks coming off of Naruto which would be visible, and him being stunned, he would quickly go on to compare it to the 4th Raikage's ability to use the lightning cloak. And Naruto hearing that would say, who even is the 4th Raikage? As Hiruzen would start to explain to Naruto how the villages work and how the 4th Raikage is a formidable shinobi, someone who he guesses would probably give even him a great run for his money. He would go on to tell Naruto that him comparing him to him should be a really big compliment, and Naruto would be like, oh yeah, right, totally, I don't know who the guy is, but sure. Then we would have Hiruzen going on to tell Naruto to go meet with Kakashi, because he's pretty sure he wanted to tell them something. And so, Naruto, Sakura, and Sasuke would all be told about the Chunin exams, and with them all hearing about this, all of them would be left with the decision. Do they want to take part in the Chunin exams, or not? Sasuke, looking at his hands, would think, I have to get strong enough to kill him. Sakura, seeing that Sasuke was agreeing, would definitely agree as well, and Naruto, wanting to test out the further limits of his power, would agree as well. After this would happen, Naruto would pretty much do physical training over the course of the next week, as he would begin doing sit-ups, push-ups, and even a bit of calisthenics. After this would be over, Naruto would definitely get a minimal increase in his muscle mass, but other than that, that's really the only thing that changes. So when Naruto would go on to meet once again with Team 7 and they would enter the Chunin exams tower, the team would start looping around until suddenly Sasuke, after about the second lap, would realize that they must be stuck in a genjutsu. This is when, using the Sharingan, he would break them free from it, and eventually they would come face to face with Lee, who says, "Ha, I knew you guys were going to be able to get past the genjutsu. I figured having the Rookie of the Year on your team was going to be making that much more easier." When suddenly, noticing Sakura in the back, the dude tries to raise her up, but it completely fails. Then, he would attempt to challenge Sasuke to a 1v1 fight, which Sasuke, having been feeling inferior to Naruto all this time, and having a little bit of an ego boost moment thanks to Lee telling him that he wants to fight the best in the graduating class, would pretty much lead Sasuke to accepting his battle and getting absolutely whooped. This is when Mike Guy would make his appearance to the story, and everybody seeing that they look so similar would be like, it's scary. After the ultimate defeat of Sasuke, they would make their way to the written test. They pass much like they do in the original. Remember, Naruto's still pretty much the same character, so he passes without answering a single question. And once they find themselves in the Forest of Death section, the team would start wondering what exactly their move's going to be going forward. This is when Sasuke, stepping forth, would tell them that he's going to be the leader of the team, and Naruto, knowing that he wasn't even able to answer a single question on that sheet and the fact that he's probably not best suited to lead, would simply be like, alright Sasuke, well, what are we going to do? And Sasuke would say it's simple. They're going to be taking the Earth Scroll one way or the other from another weak team, as Sasuke would pretty much tell them to get a move on, saying that they don't have all day. This is when the three of them would be seen jumping from tree to tree until suddenly a gigantic gigantic snake would come flying towards their direction, which proceeds to swallow Naruto whole, all the while a strange looking woman would jump off of the snake and land in front of Sasuke, beginning to lick her lips and pretty much say that she's glad that they finally get to meet. This is when Sasuke, feeling overwhelmed at the presence standing in front of him, would take his kunai, dragging it into his leg as he would grab onto Sakura, dodging out of the way of Orochimaru's attack and ultimately saving the two of them. Then looking forward, he would ask what in the world he wants with them, and Orochimaru would say that he simply wishes to test their strength and take their scroll. Sasuke in this moment would feel like that's a lie, as he could feel the ninja behind him and he would instinctively react, jumping out of the way before Orochimaru could bite him. Orochimaru would say, "Interesting, you're a lot more perceptive than I thought you'd be, and you even managed to unlock the Sharingan. Well done, Sasuke." As this would be happening, Sasuke would be holding a kunai with his guard up high, all the while Naruto, who had been swallowed by the snake, would use the multi-shadow clone jutsu to destroy the snake from the inside out and rush back to the team. He would arrive before Orochimaru and Sasuke's clash that they would have in the original, as Naruto, jumping in front of Orochimaru, would tell him to get lost, throwing a massive punch at his direction, which Orochimaru in this moment, dodging out of the way, would sense monstrous strength coming from that punch, leaping backwards as he would go on to lick his lips and say, "You're a strong one, aren't you? Nine Tails Jinchuriki," as Naruto would rush back in towards Orochimaru saying, "Shut up!" amping up his power at Orochimaru, as Orochimaru would easily be able to dodge his blow, actually now having to move at near full speed. Orochimaru in this moment, realizing that Naruto is an insanely fast one, would decide that it's probably in his best interest to not be hit by that. So, dodging over and over and over again would piss Naruto off, as he would say, "Stand still already!" as Naruto would go in to try to throw one more punch, when suddenly black whip tendrils would shoot off of Naruto, and they would destroy the surrounding forest area, latching onto Orochimaru, who with quick hand signs proceeds to use the substitution jutsu, making his way out of the strange attack Naruto had latched onto him. Orochimaru watching on as these tendrils would go completely insane, Naruto would start to say, "It hurts," as the tendrils would continue going wild, and Orochimaru, seeing the opportunity to go after Sasuke and escape, would do just that. But Naruto, noticing that because of his inability to control his power, Sasuke was about to get hurt, would feel so much rage overwhelm him. The tendrils would grow even more wild, as they would rush at Orochimaru's direction, with Naruto controlling them with his rage and Kurama's chakra beginning to corrupt one for all. This is when the tendrils rushing at Orochimaru at great speeds that he wasn't expecting would watch on as he would narrowly be able to dodge a couple of them, getting his distance from Sasuke. This is when suddenly a random black whip tendril would smack him into a tree, causing Orochimaru to be dazed as he would think, "How in the," when suddenly one more grabs him by the leg and drags him through 3 trees. Orochimaru, seeing that whatever this power is, it's clearly not normal, would decide that it's in his best interest to see Sasuke later. So he would reverse summon himself out of there, and as the power of Naruto would continue going haywire, and Naruto would do his best to control it, he would then hear the voice of Izuku Midoriya telling him to breathe in and control the power, to concentrate on one goal, locking this ability away. Naruto in this moment would feel his rage start to dissipate, as he would then focus on locking this power away in his subconscious. He would successfully do this as he falls to the ground, Sakura rushing to his aid and asking if he's okay, all the while Sasuke would do the same. This is when an unconscious Naruto, who would be inside of the vestige world, would then see the owner of the quirk Black Whip, who would begin to explain to him that he never thought he was going to be having to explain to another user how the quirk worked. But then, after breaking down the way that this jutsu, or quirk works, Naruto would say, "I get it, so it's similar to a capture weapon and could also be used for extreme mobility. It's awesome." He would then pretty much thank the guy whose quirk it was for giving it to him, and he would say, "Don't thank me, thank the green-haired boy," as he would then pretty much tell Naruto good luck, and Naruto would be back in the normal world, waking up a few seconds later, as Sakura would be tapping Naruto in the face saying, "Naruto, Naruto." This is when Naruto getting up would say, yeah, you don't have to yell, I heard you the first time. She would say, good, you're okay. All the while Sasuke would look at Naruto asking what that power was. Naruto would turn to Sasuke telling him that he's not exactly fully sure, but he thinks that more abilities are developing from his strange powers. Sasuke hearing this would think, great. Now Naruto has even more strength at his disposal. He'd be in a sour mood after this until eventually they encounter the Sound 4, or Sound 3? The Sound Genni, whatever. Regardless, once they do, Sasuke in a moment of anger would try to attack the three of them at the same time, trying to blow off some steam, but he would quickly be defeated by one of their sound attacks, all the while Naruto, seeing this happen, would decide that it's about time to use his new ability. In this moment, Naruto would attempt to use Black Whip, but he feels like he can't, and as this would happen, Naruto would then have his entire body start to reverberate from the pain that he would feel from the sound attack. Naruto in this moment, feeling himself cover his ears, would start to feel rage as his eyes would change colors. They would turn red as he would then send a massive roar at their direction, causing all three of them to take a step back, all the while Naruto with a corrupted version of One For All would speed blitz them and destroy their sound-based weapons that they have on them, like the little things that they have to shoot those sound-based attacks. After destroying them, the three of them would be on the ground, picking steps back in fear of Naruto, Dosu throwing his scroll at the ground and telling him to take it, to just let them go. But Naruto would get closer and closer, until Sakura would say, "That's enough, Naruto!" She would hold him from behind as Naruto looks at Sakura and calms down. This is when he would allow the three of them to go, all the while Rock Lee and Team 10 would watch. As they would see this happen, they would all be stunned at the strength and speed of Naruto, with Rock Lee thinking that Naruto was almost as strong as his 5th gate form. This would lead Lee to thinking about Naruto as a massively great obstacle he has to overcome, all the while they would return back to the section of the Chunin exams and they would begin to participate in the 1v1 preliminary battles. Naruto would still face off against Kiba, and much like in the original, Naruto standing in front of him would have Kiba begin to underestimate him. He would say, "Look, Akamaru, we got the easiest battle of them all. We gotta fight off against one Naruto?" He'd start laughing as he would tell Akamaru to transform into his beast state. He would then become a Kiba clone as the both of them would prepare to use the Fang over Fang. This is when Naruto, remembering all the times that Kiba had beat him in the academy, would smirk as he would go on to create 30 clones in the arena, to which Kiba would say, "What's that? A bunch of pathetic copies? You do realize that a bunch of weaklings are still weaklings, right?" As he would rush to the direction of Naruto's clones with his Fang over Fang, but some of the clones, being pissed at Kiba, would throw powerful smashes of air. This would proceed to send a whirlwind of air throughout the arena, which actually causes some of the people watching to be sent back. In this moment, Kiba would be knocked unconscious by nothing but the simple wind pressure, because if the dude ended up actually getting hit by the attack, he probably would have exploded and died, and his guts and stuff would be blown all through the arena. So with that said, Naruto would walk off as the victor, with everyone staring at Naruto wondering where he obtained such ludicrous strength. I mean, seriously, it was unheard of. The weakest ninja of all time shouldn't be able to perform a feat like that. But as Naruto would make his way back to the stands, Hinata going up to him would say, "Naruto-kun," as she would hand Naruto an ointment cream for his injuries. Naruto would thank Hinata before walking off and making his way towards Team 7. Sasuke, having seen the display of power from Naruto, would be seething in rage in this moment, and Kakashi, being one of the only people to actually notice this, would go over to Sasuke and ask him why he feels so much jealousy to Naruto, to which Sasuke would say that it's not fair, that the weakest student in the entire class has surpassed him this much and he's still just as weak as he was before. He would look at Kakashi and ask what in the world he's been doing this whole time. He's just been playing ninja, all the while Naruto has actually been growing. Kakashi, hearing the sentiment from Sasuke, would go on to tell him that if he wants to stop playing around, then he can train him over the 1 month of training that they're gonna have after this. And after Sasuke would hear that and stare at Kakashi, he would say fine. He would then walk towards the direction of Naruto, trying to act as though he's not pissed, and then the remaining battles would happen. Sasuke would watch on as Rock Lee has an ability so similar to the one Naruto has, it's kind of scary. He would then go on to ask Kakashi if he could learn something like that, and Kakashi would explain to Sasuke that something like that is extremely dangerous, so he doesn't exactly want to teach him that. But, spoiler alert, ladies and gentlemen, he's going to be learning that during the 1 month of training, just to kind of give Sasuke a bit of an edge so that the fight that we get between Sasuke and Naruto at the final valley isn't just a one-sided massacre. But ladies and gentlemen, with that said, we would then pretty much move on to the 1 month of training, in which Naruto over the course of the 1 month would still meet Jiraiya and would have Jiraiya mentor Naruto to actually learn more and more of his abilities. Think of it similarly to when Deku would have went to the agency with Endeavor, and even though Endeavor doesn't have Izuku's quirk, he was able to actually teach Izuku to use multiple different aspects of it by simply telling him basic elements that he should probably control. So, applying the same principles to Naruto would spend most of his time doing taijutsu combat training with Jiraiya and also learning how to activate his power much faster, learning to use his power similarly to how Tsunade uses her punches to destabilize her opponents by smashing at the ground. Naruto would start to use attacks similarly to that in his arsenal, as he would also still learn the ability of the toad summoning and focus just a little bit more on the Kurama chakra training, telling Jiraiya that whenever he has tapped into that state, he's almost always been using one for all, explaining that whenever this does happen, something feels off, the power feels corrupt, almost as though it's changed fundamentally. Jiraiya, taking note of this, would turn to Naruto, going on to tell him that they shouldn't worry about that for now, but they should simply focus on trying to get Naruto to up his percentage of the amount of power he could actually use. And by the end of the 1 month training, Naruto would be at a whopping 44% of control over his quirk, with Naruto having awakened another one for all quirk during this time period and having seen another vestige. This time, it would be Nana Shimura, thanks to Naruto having awakened the ability of Float, which Jiraiya and Naruto, once discovering that he's gained access to this, Jiraiya would go on to develop new interesting ways for Naruto to use his strange ability to create air force with his fingers and float. He would tell Naruto that using this ability to pretty much levitate in the air, Naruto could be changing directions using the wind pressure he can create and start to pretty much fly, an ability that not many shinobis possess and something that would make him a much more formidable opponent. Naruto, hearing this from Jiraiya, would start to train on using this power, and by the time that Naruto would face off against Neji, let's just say that Naruto would be more than prepared for this. As Naruto and Neji would step into the battle, Neji would stare at Naruto cockily, telling him that destiny has decided to make him the victor, and he is simply going to be one of his stepping stones to becoming a Chunin. Naruto, hearing this, would chuckle, knowing that there's just no way he's going to lose, because he has become very overconfident, having not only trained with one of the legendary sages, but now possessing such incredible speed and strength that Naruto really doesn't think that anybody of his class, of course, is going to be giving him a run for his money. So, as soon as the battle would start, Naruto would want to see just how well his clones would fare. So, creating about 6 clones, all of them would rush towards Neji's direction, with incredible speed that would stun Neji. However, due to the fact that he has been trained by Might Guy, a ninja who possesses incredible speed and strength, Neji would kind of have some familiarity with these clones, who at the current moment would only be outputting 20% of one for all, Naruto telling them not to go too crazy, that he wants to fight. So, Neji, using his Byakugan spatial awareness, would be able to take all of them out simultaneously, throwing a gut strike at one of them, all the while seeing another one appear from behind him about to attack, as Neji would spin, kicking that one, and begin to do a move similar to this, being able to dodge and meticulously counter each and every single one of their strikes. Naruto, seeing this happen, would then have a slight smile on his face, as Naruto, kicking things off to 30%, would see a bit of sparks of lightning coming off of him, as Neji, seeing this happen, would question what the heck that was, preparing to ready himself to use the 64 trigram attack on Naruto, as Naruto would enter the range that Neji has, but as soon as Naruto would do this, it would be almost as though an alarm would go off in his head. Danger sense would awaken, and as Naruto would feel the danger of Neji getting close to him, Naruto would quickly jump back, narrowly avoiding Neji's first strike, with Neji having a smirk on his face saying, "So, you know noticed you were within range, did you? As Neji would switch his tactic, shooting air palms at Naruto's direction. Naruto would start dodging these effortlessly, having sensed them before they could even come, with Naruto looking at Neji and wondering whether this is another quirk. As Naruto would realize that he had just awakened something else, a smirk would appear on Naruto's face, as he would say, "Let's take it for a test drive then," upping his percentage to 44%, speed blitzing Neji, who was not prepared for this at all, since he was completely shocked that Lee's performance with the 5th gate. There's just no way that Naruto, who's moving even faster than that, would be able to be caught by Neji. So, with one strike to Neji's chest, Neji would be sent flying to the wall of the arena, completely unconscious, as Naruto would hold his arm up into the air, and everybody watching this would be like, "What?" This is when Naruto, having a cheeky smile on his face, would walk over towards Sakura as he would ask if she saw. Sakura would say that that was incredible, and Naruto would say, "Was it better than Sasuke?" To which Sakura would look away going, "Never, you're never gonna be better than Sasuke," but deep down, she had to admit, that was kinda sick. Anyways though, with Naruto's match being over, the only one left would now be Sasuke versus Gaara. However, Sasuke was nowhere to be found. That is until Sasuke and Kakashi would both arrive at the ring with these really cool looking poses. Naruto, seeing Sasuke having arrived just in time, would think, "Show off," as he would then witness Sasuke face off against Gaara. Sasuke would charge up a Chidori as he would go lunging towards the direction of Gaara, piercing through and destroying Gaara's ultimate defense technique. In this moment, Gaara would go completely nuts after having seen what Sasuke did to him, and after this, we would have the crazy Sand Village takeover start to happen. In this moment, Naruto, watching the chaos ensue before him, would see Sasuke chasing Gaara out of the arena, to which Kakashi, looking to Naruto, would kind of give him a nod of chase after him. In this moment, Naruto would do just that, following after Sasuke, ultimately being stopped by Kankuro as Shino comes in the way for the W save and proceeds to let Naruto continue advancing. This is when he would run into Temari, but ultimately simply speed blitz right past her. This is when Naruto would make his way in front of Sasuke and Gaara's attacks, and as Naruto would watch, Sasuke would speed blitz right past Gaara, having used the 2nd gate, stunning Naruto, who would watch on going, "What? He can use the gates?" As Sasuke would proceed to pierce Gaara with the Chidori, with Gaara falling to the ground. The dude would stop moving almost in a near-death state, as Sasuke, turning to Naruto, Sharingan activated with the power of the curse mark and the gates active, would stare at Naruto, who one for all 44% coursing through his veins. The two of them would look at each other, as each of them would wonder who was stronger. But before they could answer this question, Gaara's body would start to move. Sand in the area would start accumulating as suddenly a gigantic Shukaku would be standing in front of them. And as Sasuke and Naruto both stare at each other, they each nod. Suddenly, each of them speed blitz and proceed to run up the body of Shukaku, as Shukaku would try to shoot sand attacks and smack them off of him like mosquitoes, but they're just too fast. And even with the sand attacks rushing at them to try to crush them, they would each dodge easily, waking Gaara back up from his slumber, to which Gaara, once awake once more, would let out a scream of pain after Sasuke's attack and ultimately snap out of it. It'd be in this moment that Naruto would most likely give him some sort of talk no jutsu, which ultimately would lead Gaara to changing his ways, as Sasuke and Naruto, both staring at each other once more, would watch on as they would still wonder who's stronger, but the both of them would deactivate their powers. Sasuke, deactivating his curse mark, would then fall to his knees as he would hold his head and be like, "Ah!" And Naruto, going over to him, would say, "Sasuke, are you?" But Sasuke would say, "Stay away from me, you damn dope." He would then get back up saying he's fine, Sharingan glaring at Naruto, as Naruto would just say he just wanted to know how he was. This is when both Sand siblings would come in and would proceed to take Gaara away, apologizing for what had went down. And so, after the aftermath of this entire attack would be over, the village would find out about the tragic passing of Sarutobi Hiruzen, as they would hold a massive funeral for him, and shortly after this, Naruto would be recruited by Jiraiya to go on the search for Tsunade mission. So, Naruto would leave the village, getting a couple of his things and making his way with Jiraiya. Over the course of this trip, maybe Naruto would learn the Rasengan, possibly, but if I'm being completely honest here, I really don't think that he would. But just because I know that some of you guys would probably be upset if Naruto doesn't have the Rasengan, which is like his whole thing, I'm gonna be making an exception for the one time. So Naruto goes on to learn the basics of the Rasengan, and eventually we would get the encounter between the Akatsuki and Naruto, which we get in the original. Naruto would be inside of his hotel room practicing the fundamentals of the Rasengan when suddenly Naruto hears some knocks at the door. Naruto would go over to answer, seeing like, who is it? And when he opens the door, he would be greeted by none other than Kisame and Itachi Uchiha. Naruto, seeing the both of them, would step back as he would realize that has to be Sasuke's brother. He would ask what business they have here, as Kisame, stepping forth, would say that they're here to capture a Jinchuriki. Naruto, hearing that, would realize that he has to try to get out of here. So Naruto, playing dumb, would then quickly activate 44% of One For All and try to speed blitz past them. However, Naruto would find this to be a daunting task, as Kisame, holding his blade in front of Naruto, asking, "Where do you think you're going?" would be stunned at the fact that Kisame could react. He would then try to change the trajectory of his sword, as Kisame would try to slash at Naruto, but Naruto, narrowly dodging out of the way, would now be in the hallway. He would try to run away, but suddenly crows would appear out of nowhere, as Itachi, staring at him, would question where he thinks he's going. And Naruto, coming face to face with Itachi, would say, This is his brother. This is when Naruto, deciding that there's no other way around it, would then shoot his black whip tendrils at Itachi, with Itachi being caught off guard by this, not having expected this. One of his arms would be wrapped up in this as he would be yanked, however he would substitute as Naruto would try running past, and Kisame lunging in his way trying to stop him with the Samehada. Naruto would have a clash with his fist and Samehada. He would ultimately push Kisame back, as Kisame would be stunned at the strength that this young kid can show. Then Naruto, using the wall to pretty much redirect himself, would then lunge at Kisame, throwing a powerful punch which draws blood from the shark man's face and sends him crashing through one of the hotel rooms. Suddenly, we would see a family of four having like a little game night inside, as they'd be like, what's going on? And as they could see this battle playing out and Naruto's about to pretty much go in and attack Kisame once more, this is when out of nowhere, Sasuke, rushing through the corridors, Chidori activated, Sharingan and the 8 Gates awakened, would rush at Itachi, screaming, "Itachi!" However, Itachi, much like he does in the original, would read Sasuke like a book, his hatred completely blinding him and making him weaker, as he would redirect his blow and hold him by the throat, telling him, "You're still too weak, Sasuke." Then placing him under the Tsukiyomi Jutsu, as Jiraiya would arrive to the battlefield, and with Itachi and Kisame both realizing that now they're going to have to face off against Naruto and Jiraiya, the two of them decide that it's their best move to run. Naruto, seeing that they were going to do this with his danger sense ability, would proceed to shoot his tendrils towards them, trying to grab them, as I just realized something. Naruto's danger sense probably would have alerted him to the fact that there was danger at the hotel door. But yeah, let's just go ahead and ignore that plot hole. Anyways, Naruto's little tendrils would shoot off towards them, with them both being able to avoid them narrowly and then escaping out of the toad mouth jutsu. Jiraiya, having seen the two of them escape, would then tell Naruto that he's impressed he was able to keep up with those two, that they are extremely high-ranking shinobis, and going on to explain that he's not sure how that battle would have gone down if the two of them hadn't escaped. Naruto, looking towards him, would go over towards Sasuke, grabbing at him and trying to tap him by the face. Jiraiya would then realize that he must have been placed under a powerful genjutsu, before then explaining to Naruto that he's not going to be waking up anytime soon. Naruto would turn to Jiraiya, asking what he means, as Jiraiya would start to explain to Naruto that that jutsu his brother must have used must have been an incredibly potent Mangekyo ability, and that's why he's going to be needing the help of Tsunade. Naruto, hearing this, would say, "Well, what are we waiting for? Let's go get her." This is when Mike Guy, arriving at the scene, would go on to take Sasuke back to the village and wish them luck on their journey. They would eventually come face to face with Tsunade, and this is when we would then get Jiraiya beginning to try to convince her to return. However, Tsunade would still not play ball with them and would say that she doesn't feel like going back to that dead-end village. Naruto, hearing this and the disrespect that she would throw at the Hokage, would say, "Huh? You mean to tell me that you'd rather waste your life away inside of this stupid bar? Some legendary Sanin you turned out to be. You're just a waste of a shinobi." But Tsunade, hearing this, smashes her fist into the table as she would say, "What did you say, brat?" And Naruto, hearing that, would say, "You heard me." This is when Tsunade would tell Naruto to take this outside, as Naruto would say, "Gladly." Suddenly, Naruto and Tsunade would be face to face, as Naruto, activating 50% of his current power output, would feel his bones start to creak a little bit, as Naruto would think to himself that he's gonna just have to bear the pain. This is when Jiraiya, coming outside, would tell Tsunade to stop it already, that she can't be trying to face off against a Genin level shinobi, but Tsunade would say that the brat started it, but she'll give him one chance to back down. She would send a smirk at Naruto, which would serve to piss him off, as he would say, "No way, believe it!" And as Tsunade would stare at Naruto, she knew that he was gonna say no. She would speed blitz towards him, trying to punch him without all of her max power to just knock the dude out. However, Naruto in this moment would smash at the ground, causing Tsunade to be thrown off balance, as she would say, "What? That's mine!" When suddenly, Naruto, appearing behind her with Black Whip activated, would restrain her, as he would then speed blitz towards her face and bonk her on the top of the head. Tsunade, having been hit by that, would land on the ground as silence would fill the area, but all too suddenly, she would stand back up with rage overcoming her. She'd be royally pissed in this moment and would lunge at Naruto as his danger sense would go off the charts, about to be killed by her, when suddenly a ton of smoke would fill the area. Tsunade, unable to see Naruto through the fog, would let Naruto get behind her, as he ultimately lands a blow on the back of her head, which knocks her out. Full power, mind you. This would definitely knock her out, as she would be sent unconscious, stunned at the fact that somebody like him was able to take a Sani down, drunk or not drunk. But obviously she wouldn't think this now because she's unconscious. She'd probably think that the morning when she wakes up, and would be even more pissed when Shizune tells her. But regardless, with that being said, Jiraiya would tell Naruto that he's a fool for having fought her like that, and that now she's probably gonna not want to come with them just because she's pissed off. Naruto would say that he doesn't care, that they don't need a Kage like that, and that he could just become the Hokage. Believe it. This is when Jiraiya would start to facepalm, and they would go to see how Tsunade was doing. However, once they get closer, they would see her speaking with Orochimaru, and they would watch on as she would try to kill him. However, Kabuto, being in the mix, would have stopped Tsunade, as he would then whip out his what were they called again? Scalpels? Yeah, scalpels out. He would then begin to face off against Tsunade, as Orochimaru in the background would say, "It's a shame, Tsunade. I was hoping I wouldn't have to use force." This is when Tsunade would say, "Go to hell, Orochimaru," as she would fight against Kabuto, who suddenly, pretty much cutting himself and showing her some blood, would cause Tsunade to be completely fearful. Her fear of blood taking over, as he would proceed to land multiple strikes at Tsunade, cutting her tendons and making her sluggish in her movements, as she already was because she had just gotten bonked over the head the day before. Then Naruto, seeing that Tsunade was in danger, would shoot a Black Whip tendril at him, restraining Kabuto as rushing towards him. Naruto, with his other hand, with a clone in tow, would charge up a small little Rasengan, as he would slam it into Kabuto's stomach, completely taking him out. Orochimaru, seeing that the brat was back once more, and it seems that he's now controlled his power, would end up telling Naruto that he's impressed. He's gotten much stronger since last they met. He would then lick his lips, thinking that he might even be a better target to go after. But this is when Orochimaru, seeing that he's probably going to have to face off against the kid and Jiraiya, would make a pretty smart decision: retreat. He would take Kabuto and reverse summon himself out of there, as Naruto would go over to Tsunade, asking if she's okay. This is when Tsunade, looking to Naruto, would ask why he saved her, as Naruto goes on to say that even a jerk like her doesn't deserve to die. This is when Jiraiya would bonk Naruto over the head, as he would say, "Naruto!" and Naruto would say, sorry. Then Tsunade, turning to Jiraiya, would pretty much have a smile on her face, as she would thank Naruto and say that she guesses she'll return back to the Leaf Village. A slight blush on her face, as she would realize that, she's gonna do him a favor. Jiraiya in this moment would smile, as Naruto would say, "All right." This is when suddenly they would return back to the village, as she would begin to perform medical ninjutsu on everybody that was injured by the Akatsuki, meaning Kakashi and Sasuke, as well as some of the injured people during the Sand Village's attack. And once this would all be over, Sasuke would wake up from his hospital bed and challenge Naruto to a fight, much like they do in the original. This would lead us to the hospital fight on the rooftop, and as Naruto would stare at Sasuke, he would ask him why he wants to fight him so bad, with Sasuke telling him not to worry about it and to not hold anything back, that if he does, he'll die. This is when Sasuke would throw a mean kick at Naruto's direction, which he narrowly is able to dodge, having used this second gate in this moment, as Naruto, reading him like a book thanks to his danger sense, would then rush in towards Sasuke, punching him. However, Sasuke's Sharingan would allow him to narrowly dodge being grazed by it, being a bit damaged, as Sasuke then doing a bunch of backflips backwards and creating some space would then jump up into the air weaving hand signs. Fire style, fireball jutsu. Naruto getting closer would then flick his finger at 60%, being able to do that for just a split second as the fire style would be completely dispersed. This is when suddenly Sasuke, substituting behind Naruto, would then go to try to stab him with the Chidori. However, Naruto turning around very quickly, creating a Rasengan in a split moment, would then proceed to clash with Sasuke as the both attacks would then cause a massive explosion. And because they were moving at such incredible speeds in this timeline and the fight was much more shorter, Kakashi wasn't able to arrive in time. So with the explosion going off, Naruto would be sent flying backwards and Sasuke would as well. However, Sasuke's arm would be in bad shape because of that. And so, having to be admitted back into the hospital, Tsunade would go on to heal him, saying that if the attack had been any stronger, she might not have even been able to save his arm and they probably would have had to give him a fake or prosthetic or something. She would tell Naruto that that's not the jutsu he should use on comrades, and Naruto would say, "I know that, damn it, he started it, he tried throwing a Chidori at me, what was I supposed to do, just let him kill me?" Tsunade would agree, saying that she understands why he did it, but she would once again say not to do that again. Naruto would walk off a bit angry, but he would ultimately feel bad for what he did to Sasuke, and as Naruto would be sleeping after a long day of training, in the dead of night, Sasuke, who had been approached by the Sound Four, would be given an offer that he blatantly just couldn't refuse, to join Orochimaru. With this happening, the next day Naruto would be woken up by Shikamaru, who would request him for a team up. This is when Naruto would report to Tsunade's office and would be informed about Sasuke deserting the village with the Sound Four. Naruto, hearing this, would start to grab at his hair as he starts practically pulling it out of his head, thinking, "Damn it, Sasuke!" After this, we would pretty much flash forward to the team making their way to Sasuke's direction, and we would get the same battles with the Sound Four that we get originally, Naruto meeting with Kimimaro and having their own fight. Naruto, as soon as he would come face to face with the shinobi, would tell him to get out of the way, rushing past him with 44% of One For All coursing through his veins, as Kimimaru's bones would shoot at Naruto's direction, and Naruto's danger sense kicking in would lead Naruto to dodging. This is when suddenly the entire area would be engulfed with smoke, as Naruto would think, "I don't have time to waste with this small fry." Suddenly, Naruto would appear in front of Kimimaru and send a punch so strong that he had thought Kimimaru would have been knocked out immediately. However, when the punch would land, it would be revealed that Kimimaru drinks a lot of milk, because the dude's bones are extremely dense, which means that Naruto's punch wouldn't fully connect on Kimimaru the way that he wanted to. This would leave Kimimaru a perfect opportunity to dig his bones into Naruto's skin, and with this happening, Naruto leaping backwards, having taken this blow from Kimimaru, would simply take the bone out of his hand as he would think to himself, "Fine, you asked for it." Suddenly, thousands of shadow clones would fill the area, but unlike in the original, these clones would not be a bunch of weaklings. These would be 44% powered One For All monsters, who would begin rushing to the direction of Kimimaru, who would quickly be overwhelmed by the clones, all the while Naruto would lunge to the direction of Sasuke. Naruto finally would come face to face with him as he would yell, "Sasuke!" This is when Sasuke, turning back around with a devious grin, would stare at Naruto, asking why he's following him. Naruto would go on to tell him to come back to the village already and to stop this stupid foolishness. Sasuke, however, would pick up one of his bangs and look at Naruto, revealing the crazy psychotic look in his eyes. As Naruto would be taken aback by this, he would say, "Sasuke, you did it!" But Sasuke would say, "I did." This is when Naruto, putting two and two together, would realize that he had completely given in to Orochimaru's power, and Naruto would ask Sasuke why he would do something so drastic to gain strength. Sasuke would tell him that he doesn't understand, but in a few short seconds, he will. This is when his Sharingan would activate in both eyes, and lunging to the direction of Naruto with newfound speed Naruto wasn't expecting, Naruto's danger sense would go off as Sasuke would throw a punch which Naruto evades, as he would then try to go in for a feint kick, kick, which almost lands on Naruto if not for his danger sense. Naruto, seeing that Sasuke was forcing him to actually try at 44%, would be absolutely shocked, realizing just how much of an amp this curse mark power up was, and it wouldn't hurt that he was also using the second gate. Sasuke in this moment would step on Naruto's foot, not allowing Naruto to move anymore, as he would then quickly charge a Chidori and slam it straight into Naruto's chest. This would then lead Sasuke to asking Naruto what he thinks of his new power, as Naruto, feeling the wound in the right side of his chest, would say, "What, Sasuke?" as Sasuke would tell him that he needed to get stronger. This is when Naruto, grabbing at the hand of Sasuke, would close his eyes, as looking back towards him, Naruto would have the rage-filled form of the Nine-Tails Jinchuriki. The wound itself would heal almost instantly, as Naruto's power-up would begin going through the roof. In an instant, Naruto would roar at Sasuke so powerfully that it would send him crashing into the water down below. Sasuke, as he would be falling, would know that this is no longer a game, as he instantly taps into the full power of the curse mark, and with his wings he would stop himself from hitting the surface of the water. However, this is when hundreds of Naruto's clones would jump off from the top of Hashirama's head statue, as each one of them would flick all 4 fingers and shoot a massive amount of wind pressure. All of them would explode, as all this wind would cause the water below to pretty much shoot up, looking like a hurricane was forming, all the while Sasuke, within the attack itself, would begin holding his hands over his face, trying to cover himself from the impact, all the while his wings would be failing him and he would start losing control of himself mid-air. This is when Naruto, getting closer and closer to Sasuke, reeling his arm back, would then throw a 100% smash at Sasuke. This blow would send Sasuke crashing throughout the riverbank, as he would start to skid like a rock and ultimately be sent crashing into the rocks, similar to how Sasuke was in the final battle that they had, when he proceeded to hit Naruto with the Nandemo, Nandemo, Nandemo. That scene, Sasuke would get back out, as Sasuke would say, "Damn you, Naruto, no matter what I do, you seem to always be stronger." This is when Sasuke would say, "The hell with you, Naruto," as he would tap into the 4th gate and attempt to speed blitz Naruto. However, Naruto would have beat him to the punch, and sending a thunderous uppercut at Sasuke, he would send the dude back crashing into the mountainside, as Naruto, staring at Sasuke, would think to himself that he won. He would raise his fist in an All Might-like fashion, as the power of the Nine-Tails would then dissipate, and as Naruto would be standing there about to walk over towards Sasuke, this is when the unthinkable would happen. Sasuke would come in out of nowhere, landing a massive Chidori attack straight through the stomach of Naruto, with Naruto staring at Sasuke in complete awe. "How did you?" But Sasuke with a smirk would say, "Genjutsu." Naruto in this moment could feel his subconsciousness slipping from him, as he would fall to the ground and rain would begin hitting them, as Sasuke, staring at the body of Naruto on the ground, would question whether it's a good idea to kill Naruto or not. However, this is when his resolve would be strengthened and he would decide not to, because he wasn't going to be going about things Itachi's way. He would leave Naruto there, not because of their ties of friendships, but simply to spite his brother. And so, as Naruto would go into the vestige world once more, he would come face to face with the first user of One for All. Naruto, standing face to face with him, would ask who he is, as the first user would tell him that he's the first, going on to tell Naruto that he's seen this story play out way too many times before. He would go on to tell Naruto not to worry about not getting his friend back this time, but he would thoroughly warn him that if he's not able to successfully help his friend the next time, he has to assume the worst. His friend will most likely be even more further gone the next time, and he would ask Naruto whether he has the resolve to help him or not. This is when Naruto would tell him that he does, having access to his mouth, or no, not mouth, but kind of like nodding it to him, as the first would smile, as Naruto has most of his body, all with the exception of his mouth. He would go on to encourage Naruto and tell him to make this borrowed power his own. Naruto in this moment would then find himself waking up in a hospital bed with Kakashi next to him and Sakura in the room as well. Naruto, staring at Sakura, would apologize for not bringing Sasuke back, and Kakashi would ask what happened. Naruto would go on to explain that he had thought that he won. His danger sense went off, but he had thought that it was just a glitch in the quirk, but he should have listened to it. Before he knew it, Sasuke had him in a genjutsu, and that was all she wrote. Kakashi in this moment would tell Naruto that he needs to work on his genjutsu resistance, and Naruto would grit his teeth saying he knows that. This is when, as the conversation would be going, the Toad Sage would enter, as Jiraiya would go on to tell Naruto that if he truly wishes to help Sasuke, then he needs to understand what that's gonna entail. But Naruto would hold his hand out telling Jiraiya that he knows. Jiraiya would smile before telling Naruto to grab his things, that they're leaving the village for the foreseeable future. Naruto would ask what this all about, as Jiraiya would explain to Naruto that they're going to be going on a bit of a long road trip. Naruto, hearing this, would be confused, as before he knows it, he would be on the road with Jiraiya and they'd be making their way toward the town, helping Jiraiya along with his research, as they would be helping different random shinobis and Naruto would be learning new experiences. Over the course of these 3 years, Naruto would go on to get the hang of all of the remainder quirks, as he would master Black Whip, Float, Dangerson, Smokescream, and even unlock Fajin as well as Gear Shift. With Naruto unlocking these new abilities and adding them to his arsenal, Naruto would become a monster, and having discovered the truth of the Shadow Clones, being able to do an outputtage of 100% during his battle with Sasuke, this time finally understanding what had happened once he had recovered, Naruto would now have discovered the innate ability to use Shadow Clones in order to have them use 100% of the power with absolutely no backlash. Because Naruto's body, even after 3 years of constant training and learning new things under Jiraiya, would only have a control of 86% over his quirk One For All, which is pretty impressive considering the fact that over the course of 3 years, Naruto managed to double the outputtage percentage that he was using, and it's the later half of everything that becomes more difficult, because a base blind body would probably be able to control about 2 or 3%, which means that Naruto got significantly more powerful over the course of this time, and now Naruto would be looking more and more like the one that you guys see in the thumbnail, which, speaking of, I would love to know your guys' opinion on it. I worked really hard on thinking up a cool pose for it, and obviously commissioning the art from my artist who made the awesome art. Check him out, his links is down below in the description. But yeah, rate the thumbnail down below. Let me know what you guys think about it from a 1 to 10 scale, and let's get back into the story. Alright, jumping back into the story where I think I last left off, Naruto and Jiraiya had just finished their training time skip, and Naruto got a significant amount stronger. So with this happening, we could get the original scene of Naruto returning to the village and probably standing on top of the building as well, hitting the iconic "I'm back, Naruto Uzumaki," yada yada yada. You guys can imagine how that scene would play out. It's pretty interesting because now that Naruto's back in this timeline, he's not going to be a 16-year-old kid because, he already was. Now Naruto's more akin to a grown man. Naruto's now going to be 19 years old, his body's going to be way more physically fit, and the dude is going to be absolutely ripped. I mean, his muscle mass is off the charts. When Naruto would finally come down, the first person to spot him would be Konohamaru, who says, "Big bro Naruto, is that you?" Naruto turned into Konohamaru would say, "Ah, Konohamaru, how's you been?" And Konohamaru, looking at Naruto, would be like, "It's been awesome, Naruto." Like, he's like even 3 years older than he would be in the original. So he's like, I think he might even be like 16-ish. Konohamaru would look to Naruto, and in this moment, I just don't know if the whole little sexy jutsu moment would still happen. So possibly we would get like a normal interaction between the two. This is when suddenly Sakura would probably come in out of nowhere and would be like, "Naruto, it's you. I wasn't expecting to see you so soon." Naruto lets out a chuckle and he's like, "Soon, eh?" And she'd be like, "Yeah, I figured I'd break the ice or something." Naruto, hearing this, would turn to her and say that he's just honestly glad he gets to see some familiar faces, that it's been so long. Sakura would go on to say that it feels like it's been forever, and Naruto would say that it has been forever. This is when suddenly the two of them would then be interrupted by Jiraiya sensei, who arriving would pat Naruto on the back, telling them that they still gotta report to Tsunade. Naruto in this moment would be like, "Oh, you're right," as he'd begin making his way towards the direction of Tsunade's office. However, before he could arrive, Naruto would be spotted by Hinata, and Hinata, seeing Naruto's frame and how much he's changed over the years, would start blushing like crazy. passing out instantly, as Naruto would find himself inside of Tsunade's office, who would go on to ask Naruto just how much stronger he's truly gotten. Naruto, pointing towards his muscles, would say that it's pretty obvious he's gotten a lot stronger, and Tsunade, looking at Naruto, would tell him that being a meathead doesn't exactly make him a talented shinobi. Naruto in this moment would say, "What you say, you damn hag? You haven't changed a bit since I last saw you, huh, Tsunade?" She starts chuckling and says nope, and it'd be at this point that Naruto, letting out a soft smile, would just look at her and, have a smile on his own face. It'd be at this point that she would go on to say that she has a very special person who's going to be meeting them right now, and Naruto would wonder who this is. This is when suddenly, a few minutes later, Kakashi would arrive at the window with Naruto saying, "Kakashi-sensei, how's it been?" Kakashi, turning to Naruto, would give him a slight nod saying, "It's been good, Naruto." This is when Naruto would give him a book saying he has a gift for him, and he would hand him the special book of the Makeout Tactics series. Kakashi, seeing this, would just absolutely swoon over the moon as he just leaves instantly and says that he has some business to attend to. This is when Naruto would start laughing, and he would ask Tsunade what Kakashi was doing there. She would go on to explain that once he's done taking care of business, quote unquote, he's gonna be taking part in the bell test. And she would be like, "What? We're gonna do the bell test again?" This is when Tsunade would go on to say that she wants to see just how much he's improved with her own eyes, that Sakura has done a lot of improvement, and she wants to bear witness to all of Naruto's changes over the years. Naruto would give her a slight smile saying sure thing, that he's willing to do whatever she wants. It'd be at this point that a few hours later, after catching up and Naruto going to his house to, see how things have been, would see that his house was an absolute mess. In this moment, Naruto creates like hundreds of shadow clones and they all start cleaning, but Naruto would realize that they're all getting in each other's way, so a couple of them would disappear and it would be about 10 people in the house cleaning with Naruto. Well, 10 Narutos. But anyways, once this would be over, Kakashi and all three of them would be ready to begin the bell test, with only 2 members of Team 7 this time because, Sasuke had left. But yeah, the second that this test would start, Naruto, using his musculature in his legs, would use 80 something, I think it was 84% or something like that, 86, I believe it was 86. He would use his maximum outputage of one for all in his legs as speed blitzing past Kakashi, who couldn't even react, would have faint grabbing at the bells. However, thanks to the fact that Naruto didn't want this whole thing to end that fast, he would have held back and simply grazed the bells. Kakashi, once he finally realized what had happened, would look at Naruto, to which Sakura, then jumping up into the air, would throw a cha punch at the ground. She shatters it, and Kakashi, leaping up into the air, would be stunned. It'd be in this moment that smoke would fill the area as Kakashi, unveiling his Sharingan, would begin searching for Naruto, seeing him through the mist. However, it's too late because 2 black tendrils leap at Kakashi, grabbing him by one leg and one arm as they would fly him into the air, followed by Naruto using his quirk Float to fly after Kakashi and speed blitz him in the air. It'd be at this point that Naruto would end up flicking at Kakashi's point blank range as Kakashi would be sent back, his mouth mask like flying backwards a little bit as Naruto smiles, and suddenly Sakura would come flying in, grabbing both bells as Naruto would have a huge smirk on her face. Tsunade, seeing the impact of Naruto's training over this time, would be completely shocked as she would say, "Jiraiya, and Jiraiya would nod, saying he's even more powerful than he is. Tsunade would have a smile on her face, saying that she knew Naruto was going to become incredibly strong, but this is just insane. It's at this point that Jiraiya would end up pretty much saying, of course it is, he's the one who trained him. And funny enough, it wasn't really as much Jiraiya's training as much as it was Naruto just doing a bunch of calisthenics. And when I say a bunch, I mean a bunch. The dude is practically Mashal in the Naruto verse, but I digress. Anyways, after this would happen, the team would go back to doing their own things, and it would be when a few hours later, Team 7 would be requested to go on a mission. Naruto would be like, "What, already?" And regardless of this, he would report to Tsunade's office, who would go on to tell Naruto that the Sand Village's Kazekage Gaara has been captured. Naruto catching wind of the fact that Gaara became a Kage would be like, what? Gaara became Kage? Tsunade would say that he has and that he's changed a lot over the years. As Naruto turning to Tsunade would say, well, what are we waiting for? Let's go save him. It's at this point that she would go on to tell Naruto that they need to be careful because the two perpetrators who were responsible for taking him were two members of the Akatsuki, Deidara and Sasori of the Red Sand. Naruto, hearing all those names, would say, blah blah blah, are we gonna keep hearing titles or can I go punch some skulls in? This is when Tsunade, looking at Naruto, would be a bit annoyed but would tell him to get back alive, and so the team would make their way to the direction of the Sand Village. Once arriving, Sakura, much like in the original, would start healing Kankuro from his poison, and then they would finally find themselves face to face with the cave that leads to Deidara and Sasori. In this moment, Naruto would start doing this weird movement of jumping up and down without leaving the ground, as energy for Fajin would start being converted into Naruto's legs, and as Sakura would prepare to punch the rock, Naruto, using Fajin in combination with Gear Shift and One for All, would speed blitz in there so incredibly fast that before the rock had fully all touched the ground, Naruto had already captured Deidara and Sasori inside of his black whip cords, smashing each of them into the wall and nearly knocking them both unconscious. That would have done great damage, but regardless, now that they were both held, Naruto would think that the mission was over. However, this is when Deidara would have a massive bomb go off near where Naruto was standing. But luckily for Naruto, his danger sense would have warned him of this, and Naruto would have been able to use his float quirk to evade most of the damage. Naruto, then turning towards Deidara, would tell him that was pretty smart, to which Deidara would say, how did you? But Naruto would tell him danger sense. This is when Deidara, with a confused expression, would tell him to try to evade this. Two little clay birds would fly at Naruto trying to destroy him, but it'd be at this point that two puppets, thanks to Lady Chiho, would tank the blow. Naruto would thank her for that, as he would then go on to ask Deidara why exactly they captured the Sand Kazekage, and Deidara would say that it's for the tailed beast he has inside. Isn't it obvious? Naruto, in this moment, would say that he's gonna be spilling more than just that information in a bit, but it'd be at this point that Sasori, breaking out of the Black Whip tendril, would alert Naruto's danger sense. Him trying to land a poison attack on Naruto would fail utterly, as Naruto would smash the puppet with one punch, before then saying that if he wants to fight dirty, they can fight dirty. Suddenly 100 shadow clones would fill the space, and Naruto would hold his fingers to flick them at any given moment. Naruto would tell them that in just a second, Naruto could unleash this attack so powerful that the entire cave would collapse, crushing them. He would then go on to tell them that unless they want to die today, then they're going to be listening to what their team says. This is when Kakashi, stepping forward, holding a hand out for Naruto, would begin to question Sasori and Deidara. And this is when I can see the beans being spilt about Sasori having some sort of crazy meeting with the Orochimaru after a bit of questioning. Deidara, hearing this, tells Sasori that he should not have told him that information, as Deidara, freeing his hand up just a bit, would proceed to use his ultimate technique, the suicide bomb. This is when he would start to pretty much monologue about how art is an explosion, and before the team knew it, Deidara would begin expanding, trying to use a suicide bomb. However, Naruto, in this moment, having his danger sense go off like never before, would quickly capture Sasori, leaving Deidara and every single person there, so Kakashi, Sakura, Lady Chiyo, Sasori, and speed blitz out of there in combination with everything he has access to. Naruto would have pushed himself to his utter limits and channeled 90-something% of One for All throughout his legs, allowing them to narrowly escape the radius of the explosion, as some of it would still end up hitting them even as far as Naruto managed to take them, as Naruto looks back and sees the massive crater Deidara would have formed, with him thinking that he had done the best thing and killed everybody and made sure that more information didn't get leaked. But it was not fast enough, because thanks to Naruto's incredible speed of One for All, he was able to avoid that. And so, after questioning Sasori a bit more, we would probably end up getting a moment of a heart-to-heart kind of encounter between Chiyo and Sasori, asking him why. This is when he would go on to explain the truth about why he's done all of this, and Lady Chiyo would be the one to ultimately finish Sasori, with a heartfelt thank you coming from the mad lad. As speaking of Sasori, if you guys haven't seen What If Naruto Would a Puppet Dojutsu, puppet dojutsu? What if Naruto had a puppet jutsu or was a puppet master? Go check that video out. I think a lot of you guys here would probably love that story, and it's genuinely one of the best ones that I've dropped this month. But with that said, and getting back into the story, after the information of Team 7 would end up getting from Sasori, they would end up learning about Orochimaru and his meeting at Tenchi Bridge, and we would finally get an arc in this video that I don't actually do in most of my videos now that I think about it. In fact, I think this might be the first time that I've done this arc in the entire year, which is just ludicrous to say. But with that being said, they would return to the village and begin pondering this information. However, unfortunately for the team, Kakashi in this timeline will still have to go off on another mission. So, having a different team captain being Yamato in this timeline, the team would end up meeting Yamato as well as Sai, who, remember, in the original story of Naruto, Sai came off as super disrespectful in the original. The second that he had met Naruto, he literally tried attacking him, right? And I think that the same thing is still going to be happening here. However, what Sai has happened to him in exchange for that is going to be changing drastically, because Naruto's danger sense is going to be warning him, and instantly he's going to be able to speed blitz these arc creatures, destroying them, sensing where the true Sai is at thanks to danger sense, and arriving right in front of him, nearly to land a finishing blow. However, this is when Yamato would end up getting in the way and telling Naruto to stop. Naruto, at hearing this, would ask why, that he had just tried to kill him. But this is when Yamato would explain that this is their third member, to replace Sasuke. Naruto, hearing this, would say he's not replacing Sasuke, he's just filling in for the moment. As his teeth would start gritting, Yamato would apologize for how he had said that, but he would then go on to explain to Naruto that regardless, he can't just attack his teammate. Naruto, turning to Sai, would say, "Tell him that first." And this is when Yamato would go on to inform him that he was about to. It's at this point that Naruto, turning to the direction of Sai, would ask what the big idea of that was, with Sai answering that he had simply wanted to test his abilities, saying he can't work with weaklings. Naruto, hearing that, would grit his fists so tightly that it almost seemed as though blood was about to start pouring out. And Naruto, staring at Sai, would tell him that he's not going to be taking any disrespect. Leaning into Sai's ear, Naruto would say, "Let me put this in terms even you can understand. If you keep messing with me, I'm going to make sure they're piecing your body back together for weeks, you got me?" And then, leaving his ear, he would simply smile at him, saying, "Excited to work together." After this, Sai, staring at Naruto and seeing that he's deadly serious, would kind of just understand, okay, yeah, I'm not messing with this guy, he is clearly dangerous. So we would now get the Tenchi Bridge stuff happening, and much like it does in the original, the attack would fail. They would try to have Yamato turn into Sasori to trick them, but Kabuto, working as a double agent, would try to kill him, which leads Naruto to stepping in and instantly landing a blow at Kabuto's stomach, rendering him completely out of the battle. He'd be wincing in pain, trying to gather air into his lungs, but the more that he tried, the more pain that he had felt. Naruto had practically ruptured something in his body with that first punch, and as Kabuto would be wheezing, eyes wide open agape, he would be staring at Naruto with his eyes looking hazy, wondering who the heck that was, not even seeing anything but a blur. With the only thing that he could truly recognize was his master Orochimaru. The two of them were now face to face, and the more Kabuto tried to get up to help Orochimaru, the less it worked. This is when we would get a scene between Naruto staring off at Orochimaru, telling him to tell him where he's keeping Sasuke. Orochimaru at this point would answer saying, my, you seem to act as though I'm keeping him hostage. If I do recall, Sasuke came of his own volition." Naruto, hearing that, would grit his teeth as he would tell Orochimaru that he'll kill him. In this moment, Naruto would then rush at Orochimaru and throw a massive punch, destroying his body. However, Orochimaru, being the snake that he is, would end up slithering his way out of there, as using the substitution jutsu he would evade that attack. It'd be at this moment that Naruto's Nine Tails aura would start covering him. However, thankfully to the training that Naruto's done over the course of this time, it would not take over his mind entirely like it does in the original. 3 tails of the fox's power would start to course through Naruto, and even with that being the case, Naruto would begin attacking Orochimaru with such an onslaught of terrifying attacks that eventually Orochimaru has to retreat. This isn't a battle, it's more akin to a massacre. If you've ever played a horror game and you're like trying to run away from those monsters that are trying to kill you, that's what this battle is akin to, right? So with Orochimaru running away towards the direction of Sasuke, this is when we would get Team 7 chasing off after them, and once they would finally arrive to his hideout, this is when we would get the newfound encounter with Sasuke. In this moment, as Naruto would be chasing after Orochimaru, Yamato would tell Naruto to calm down, to which Naruto would do so, and the Nine Tails aura would dissipate, seeing as when he does have control of his Nine Tails aura, for some reason his control over One For All goes under, because if he uses too much One For All, the power itself starts to help Naruto be more corrupted, but for some reason when he's fully given into it, he's able to access 100% easily, and that's something that's been the case even since he started his training with Jiraiya. It's curious, but regardless, now inside of Orochimaru's hideout, a massive lightning style jutsu would go off, as Sasuke and Naruto would now be face to face. Sasuke saying, "Been a while, Naruto," to which Naruto, turning to Sasuke, would ask him if he's finally ready to stop playing with this freak. This is when Sasuke would tell him that they need to get lost, and that his infatuation with him is sickening. He would tell Naruto that instead of chasing after him, he should have been chasing after some girl or something. But Naruto, hearing that, getting pissed off at what Sasuke told him, would crack a smirk as he would say, "Oh yeah? Guess I could say the same to you and your poor older brother." This is when Sasuke, hearing the fact that Naruto had mentioned Itachi and his obsession with him, he would get pissed, attempting to draw his blade. However, Naruto would be so much faster than Sasuke that he would hold Sasuke's arm, rendering him completely unable to draw his blade. In this moment, Naruto then, using his black whip tendril, would wrap it around Sasuke, who seeing this would go, "More of that, eh?" This is when he would then start being like flung into another wall of the area, as Naruto knows that this time, if he wants to bring him back, he's gonna have to beat him to come back. So Naruto would then rush at Sasuke. However, this is when one of those massive little gate things that Orochimaru can summon would appear, and Naruto would punch straight through it. Suddenly, Sasuke and Orochimaru would both attempt to tag team Naruto, but this would not work. Naruto, channeling all of One For All in tandem with Danger Sense, Fajin, and Gear Shift, would be so incredibly fast that it practically looks as though he was using flying Raijin in the battlefield. Little things of air would be created for Naruto to stand on, and he'd be moving so fast that he's literally on 8 Gate sky level at this point. They, seeing this, would be unable to stop anything that Naruto was throwing at them, and so Naruto would end up defeating both Orochimaru and Sasuke. That said, with both of them now laying at his feet, Naruto would then stare at the body of Sasuke, wondering what exactly this freak had taught in him, as he would place a seal on Sasuke's eyes, not allowing Sasuke to tap into his Sharingan, as he would also place dampeners on his chakra, which are more seals, and he would do the same for Orochimaru. This is when Naruto, now with 2 prisoners for Konoha, would return them back, as Tsunade would actually be the one to question Orochimaru, seeing as Jiraiya was currently busy on some other mission. And so, Tsunade, trying to pry into what makes Orochimaru tick, would find nothing. She pretty much just realizes that he truly is the worthless scum she had thought of him as. And as Orochimaru's body would sit there decaying and growing worse over time, Tsunade would tell him that he's gonna rot in the Leaf Village, with Orochimaru cackling and saying he's not so sure about that. In this moment, we would then see a different scene where Naruto would be speaking to Sasuke, asking him why in the world he felt such a need to go chasing after Orochimaru, to which Sasuke would respond that he needed to do it to kill Itachi. Naruto then would bang at the gate saying, "Why? What were you gonna get after you defeated him, huh? Was it truly worth abandoning your friends, Sakura, the village? Tell me, Sasuke, tell me why." Sasuke, through gritted teeth, would say that it was, that killing Itachi has been his life's mission, and that he's an avenger, but Naruto wouldn't understand what it's like to have a burden like that on him. Naruto would tell him that if he has so many burdens, to share them with others, that's what friends are for. But Sasuke, gritting, would end up pretty much telling Naruto that he has no friends, that in order to get stronger, he had to let go of things like that. Naruto at this point would stand up saying, "Yeah, and see where that got ya. I got so much stronger than you that I was able to defeat you and your master. If you had stayed in the village, maybe you could have gotten stronger too. He would then walk off, leaving Sasuke there in a rage as he would say, "Let me out!" And then we would probably get a scene of Sakura and Sasuke like talking. I could probably see Sasuke trying to like sweet talk Sakura to letting him out of the cage, and it would probably end up working too, considering that she has such a soft spot for Sasuke, and this is kind of the world of ninjas, so deception is not exactly something new. He'd probably lie to her about saying that he does miss her and that he'll abandon, chasing after Itachi, and that they can live together and stuff like that, and Sakura might straight up let him go, but that's for a later date. Anyways though, with that said, once Naruto would leave the little jail cell where they have Sasuke under, Naruto would speak with Tsunade as he would go on to tell her to be lenient on him, that he was only doing that in order to kill a rogue shinobi. She would say she understands, but at the end of the day, he became a rogue nin and abandoned the village. He's responsible for injuring many of his teammates, and Naruto hearing that would say that he understands, but please, for him, spare Sasuke. Tsunade would say that he doesn't have to worry about that she was already going to be sparing him. Not like she needs the last Uchiha in the village to be killed. Naruto turning to her would say, "Is that it?" And she'd say, "And I have a soft spot for you." This is when Naruto would smile, as Tsunade in this moment, while she would be speaking to Naruto, would receive a messenger shinobi who would go on to inform them that Asuma has just died and that Team 10 were attacked by the members of the Akatsuki, Hidan and Kakazu. After hearing this, Naruto would say, "What? No way, Asuma died?" As they would then be told all the information, and a few hours later, Team Chikacho or whatever would arrive at the village. Naruto in this moment would probably have a heart-to-heart scene with Shikamaru, as in this timeline he would tell him that the next time that they encounter them, they're dead. As Shikamaru would nod at Naruto, and he would tell him to get ready for the mission. Naruto at this point would spend the next few days simply doing normal calisthenics training and working on new different combos for his one-for-all quirks, seeing as it's something that Naruto has learned to use in tandem with multiple abilities at this point. And as Naruto would begin working on these new abilities and combos, this is when the vestiges of One For All would begin speaking to Naruto. And Naruto, seeing the vestige of Izuku, would say, "So, you again, Deku, what's up?" This is when Deku would start to explain to him that his uses of the quirk are so interesting. He would start freaking out about how cool it is that Naruto found these interesting uses and combination attacks. He would also tell him that he's incredibly proud of how much progress he made in these 3 years. Naruto at this point would have a smile as he would say, "It's only thanks to you," as the rest of the vestiges in the quirk would begin speaking to Naruto, telling him that if he's gonna use their quirks like that, he should at least come up with some pretty cool attack names. Naruto hearing this would start thinking about that, going, I never really thought about that. Maybe I will. At this point, he'd look at his hand as he would then turn towards one of the vestiges, telling him to use his quirk more like this. And as Naruto would get some advice about how to use the quirk back when it was his, Naruto would start to understand a better way of using it. And so, as Naruto would continue training, finally, a message would come to him, with them telling him that it's time. Naruto would get his things ready, and arriving at the battlefield alongside Shikamaru and Team Shikacho, Naruto would find himself facing off against Kakazu. As Naruto would find himself in a staring match against him, and Kakazu would smile, saying that he didn't know the leaf was so kind to bring him the Nine Tails Jinchuriki straight to him. Naruto, after hearing this, would start doing that weird jumping motion that Deku does in the My Hero timeline, as he would look to Kakazu and tell him that if he can catch him, well, then I guess he'll come along with him. And so, right as Kakazu would smirk, Naruto would speed blitz right under him, landing a boxer-style uppercut, sending the dude flying into the air. His brain would rattle inside his head as the blow that he had sustained nearly took his head off of his body. But it's thanks to the fact that he has those strange strings that connect his body that it didn't go flying. Naruto, seeing that he was still alive, would smirk as he would leap into the air using float, and in tandem with Black Whip holding him still, Naruto, charging the last bits of Fajin, would end up speed blitzing at him, kicking him straight in his chest. And it would be a kick so brutal that it would send bits and pieces of Kakuzu everywhere, as everybody would watch on in awe, with Kakashi being the most stunned at Naruto's abilities, because Naruto had just taken out an Akatsuki member in under 6 seconds. Kakashi would be stunned, and staring at the back of Naruto, he would see his old sensei, Minato. So, as Naruto would land on the ground, everybody would start to sing his praises. As Naruto would start blushing and holding his hand behind his head, Naruto would say, "Yeah, you know, you guys, like, it's not that big of a deal." But with that being said, the battle would be over and Shikamaru would obviously defeat Hidan like he does in the original, which pretty much just leads to the team returning back to the village, which is normally where we would get the Sasuke versus Itachi fight, and we would start covering the Jiraiya versus Pain stuff. That stuff does happen, but the Sasuke versus Itachi fight doesn't go down. Instead, Sasuke would remain in the village, and I just thought of something sick that could possibly happen, where Sakura's actually going to be letting Sasuke go the day of the Pain attack. So as the two of them would be in the prison talking, and Sakura would be visiting him, having brought him some food and stuff, she would go on to ask Sasuke why he doesn't just come with her. And Sasuke, hearing that, would say that he would if only he could. This is when Sakura, believing Sasuke and truly thinking that he had changed, would go on to free him. But as this would happen, a huge explosion would go through the village. The leader of the Akatsuki, Pain, would have just arrived, trying to destroy everything, and he did just that. And as Naruto would be in his house, he would feel the explosion, not having been doing his Sage Mode training, since this is something that Naruto genuinely doesn't even believe that he needs. So as Naruto would step out to see this leader of the Akatsuki, Pain, he would then see that Sasuke was there as well. He would ask how in the world he got free, and Sasuke would say that that fool Sakura let him go. And it's a good thing too, he didn't exactly feel like dying in a jail cell today. Naruto at this point would tell Sasuke that he'll capture him after this, asking him if he's truly ready to fight this guy. And Sasuke would nod, as Naruto would smirk, saying, "Think you can keep up, slowpoke?" As Sasuke, turning to Naruto, would say, "Of course I can, loser. Just try not to get in my way, Naruto." It's at this point that both of them would rush towards the paths of pain, but in this moment, the Diva Path, sending a pulse to fly them backwards, would send them flying in the air, and this would be followed by tons of rockets that the Asura Path would send flying at them. This, hitting Sasuke, would proceed to do some pretty decent damage to him, as out of the smoke would appear Sasuke with a Sharingan out, as well as his curse mark abilities, his wings having taken the brunt of the attack. Naruto, seeing that, would say, "Why didn't you take that attack out when we last fought?" And Sasuke would say, "You didn't give me time." He'd fly towards them with his blade charged up with the Chidori stream through it, as he would begin to try to strike at the Asura Path. But this is when, out of nowhere, an invisible tongue would try to wrap itself around him, and he would slice the tongue off instantly, jumping up into the air as he would shoot 3 fire style jutsu simultaneously. All the while this would be happening, Naruto, using his smokescreen abilities to end up pretty much messing up the ability that they have to sync their vision, would proceed to actually start throwing them off, because no matter how many times the Diva Path would shoot all the smoke away with his ability to, pretty much control gravitational forces, Naruto would just produce more and more smoke. And thanks to the fact that Sasuke has the Sharingan and can track chakra signatures, or chakra rod receivers, this would make it easier for him to fight. And since Naruto has gotten so used to fighting in a fog, he's performing very well. Naruto, in this moment, using Black Whip tendrils, would proceed to grab every single one of the animal summons by the animal path, as floating them up into the air, Naruto throwing them all up there would create thousands of clones. These clones, leaping into the air, would rush at all of the path summons, as just like Naruto would have done with the forced emergence jutsu that Madara would have used in the 4th war, Naruto would decimate all the summons. This is when, out of nowhere, Naruto would start to be tugged towards the direction of pain, but Naruto, smartly using his Black Whip to hold himself down to the ground, kind of like an anchor, would not allow himself to be pulled. This is when instantly Naruto, landing on the ground, would propel himself forward towards the direction of the Diva Path. However, before Naruto could make full contact, the Preta Path, standing in front of Naruto in an attempt to drain his chakra and his jutsu, would attempt to do that. However, Naruto's punch would not be coming in with any chakra at all. It was 100% the power of One for All. So at the moment of impact, the Preta Path would be completely decimated, as simultaneously, Sasuke would have rushed towards the Animal Path and completely destroyed it. This is when he would say 2 down, inform where to go. And so Naruto and Sasuke would appear from their side of vision as rockets would be sent towards them by the Asura path. Naruto in this moment, however, would flick all 4 of his fingers in each hand, sending gusts of waves so powerful that they would cause the rockets to literally go off target. And as this would happen, Naruto would say, "Go Sasuke!" To which Sasuke, rushing in as fast as he possibly could, would slice into the Asura path, destroying it completely. Now, with the Naraka path, Diva path, and Human path being the only ones left, Naruto would say, "Take those 2 on and I'll take the boss." Sasuke would say, "Don't order me around," but he would go exactly to do just that, understanding that the power difference between these 2 and that one is massive. So as Naruto would rush towards its direction, it would push Naruto back. Naruto counting in his head as he would say 1, 2, and then understanding the timing of the path itself, he would speed blitz in towards it, throwing a punch so powerful that it would destroy the arm of the Diva path. The Diva path would be stunned, but before it could do anything to Naruto, using Black Whip to hold it in place would then speed blitz towards it using Fa Jin, as kicking its head clean off of its body, it would break apart like a literal puppet. Now Naruto standing above the path, he would watch on as Sasuke would lift his hand into the air and say, "Be gone with the thunderclap, Kirin." Suddenly, a lightning dragon would fall down from the sky, consuming the remaining 2 paths of pain, as Sasuke with a big grin on his face would say, under his breath of course, "That'll show you not to attack my village." After this, Sasuke would turn to Naruto and tell him not to stop him, as he would run off, having held a letter that Sakura would have brought to him inside of the prison itself. Naruto, knowing that Sasuke's probably gonna go off to do something stupid, would decide whatever. He helped him with the village, so he's gonna let him go. He'll just go pick him up from the daycare center, which is what Naruto's thinking, whenever he feels like it. So, as Sasuke would leave the village in search of his grand fight with his big brother Itachi, Naruto would simply watch on as he would do that, being more focused on what's next. Since Naruto in this timeline wouldn't have Sage Mode, there'd be no way for him to use his sensory abilities in order to actually realize that the real one wasn't among them. And even if Naruto did, which actually now that I'm thinking about it, he probably would thanks to Jiraiya's message, he wouldn't know how to get to him. Because without Sage Mode, there's just no way that Naruto's gonna be learning that ability. This would ultimately lead Naruto to understanding that he probably should have learned Sage Mode or some sort of different training method for sensory ninjas. So, after the destruction of the village would finally be over, Naruto would actually go on to leave a couple of clones back in the village, at least 20, as they would be there not only to protect the village, but to also help with the construction of the village. And as Naruto would leave, he would go to Mount Miyaboku, where Naruto would start his training for Sage Mode, beginning from scratch and learning how to harness the technique a lot easier than he would in the original, thanks to Naruto's ability of controlling One for All, which even though it doesn't work like Sage Mode exactly, Naruto has honed his body and his mind to an exponential amount over the course of the time skip. So with that said, Naruto would go on to pretty much reminisce about memories that he's had with Jiraiya over the time that they were together, and tears would begin falling out of his eyes after he had finished completing the training. One of the toads would look to Naruto and say that Jiraiya was a great man, and that he'd be proud of the progress he'd made. He truly does seem to be like he'll be the child of prophecy. Naruto hearing that would wonder what the heck that's all about, and simultaneously, Sasuke would have held his match with his big brother Itachi, a few days after the one that we get in the original, but I don't think that's gonna affect much. Regardless though, Sasuke is still gonna be pretty much hearing the news of Itachi, because that's how he awakens his Mangekyo, and that would ultimately lead him to trying to crash the 5 Kage summit, which in this timeline, Naruto's still going to be going, but after mastering Sage Mode. So when Naruto and Sasuke would have their encounter during the 5 Kage summit, Sasuke practically being completely worn out, Naruto would easily be able to take Sasuke out, restraining him in Black Whip. But it'd be in this moment that a warp gate would open, and out from it would come Obito Uchiha. With a deep voice, he would go on to tell him that that's his progeny, as he would go on to inform him that Sasuke is coming with him. but Naruto, chuckling, would tell him that he could just try to take him from him, as we would then get a brief skirmish between Obito and Naruto, where Naruto finds out about Obito's phasing ability. However, once he would discover this, it would be too late. Obito would have phased out of there alongside Sasuke, and Naruto, now understanding kind of how that ability works, we would see him beginning to talk with some of the vestiges of One For All, him asking them if they felt that too. They would go on to explain to him that that's actually inherently similar to somebody that they knew back in their world. Izuku would start to explain that he had known somebody by the name of Mirio, who possessed a quirk called permeation. It allowed him to become intangible, but during the time of that intangibility, he wasn't able to breathe, he wasn't able to see, and it doesn't seem as though those limitations are applying to this person. So he would advise Naruto to approach him with the utmost care and to not let his guard down. Even though Naruto has the strength to absolutely wreck him with one blow, if he can't land that blow, the battle's over. Naruto, would hearing that from Deku, would nod, saying that he understands that, as this is when Naruto would finally point out who's the golden vestige. At this point, Deku, turning, would say that that's his master, All Might, that luckily his time still hasn't come, so that's why he doesn't have a full vestige form body. Naruto, upon hearing that, would wonder what this All Might guy was like, to which Deku would actually go on to explain that he actually reminds him a lot about him actually. Naruto, hearing that, would scratch his head going, well, I hope that's a good thing, as he would then turn towards Deku and the rest of the vestiges and tell them that he's gonna take care of business, to just watch him. The vestiges, with a smile looking on to Naruto, would think that they have no doubt, and they would pretty much tell Naruto that if he finds himself in a pinch, he can count on them. Naruto, at this point, would smile, as he would then think about what's gonna happen next, knowing that a war is coming with the Akatsuki leader Obito. It's at this point that every single one of the nations would start to make preparations, and unlike in the original story, where Tsunade had thought that Naruto should not be involved in the war, thanks to Naruto's status as a Jinchuriki and the level of strength he had at this point, she normally would send him to the Toad Island or whatever the thing was, but in this timeline, I'm not sure. I genuinely do think that Tsunade, knowing the strength of Naruto, once she would come back to consciousness, would definitely want Naruto to be a part of it, considering the fact that she understands that he is the strongest shinobi that they have available. And if anybody's going to be able to defeat that Obito guy, it's Naruto. The speed, the strength, the tenacity and unpredictability of Naruto's attacks make him an absolute ace in the combat against Obito. So, unlike in the original timeline, instead of going to learn how to control Kurama, Naruto would advance into the battlefield, allowing a lot more people to be saved and sending hundreds of clones into the battlefield to help a bunch more people out in different sections. This is when we would get the battles between Naruto, Itachi, and Nagato, or actually no, that's not gonna happen. It would just be Itachi. And as Naruto would begin to fight him, Itachi in this timeline, trying his best not to pretty much go all out and stuff like that and hold a conversation with Naruto, would begin to tell him what he believes is the nature of the jutsu, but never having placed any Kodowa Matsukami bird on him, he wouldn't be able to fully help him or pretty much take down the jutsu like he would have originally. None of that whole moment with Kabuto would take place, so this means that unfortunately for the Shinobi Alliance, they would have to fight against way more undead shinobi, and some of those people that barely managed to survive thanks to the summons pretty much having been rebuked and taken back to their I think it's the Pure Lands world or something like that, they pretty much end up dying. But Naruto being there much more early would probably mean that some of them would probably be taken back. Regardless though, with this being the case, I forget if I had killed Orochimaru or not. Did I? I'm pretty sure that he had ran away or something like that. I'm not sure, but regardless, we all know that Orochimaru is a sneaky little bastard, so he's still going to be performing the summoning of the previous Hokage, and once we get to the end game of the story, things kind of just stay the same. I'm not gonna lie, when it comes to the ending arc of Naruto, this massive war arc, there's so much going around that sometimes I find this arc to be a bit intimidating to get into, especially when I'm talking about covering it, because it's not like it's just at a specific place where Naruto and Obito find themselves clashing and there's not a bunch of other factors that go into it. Instead, it's everybody there. So we're just going to be jumping into the one battle that I'm pretty sure is going to be giving me ease for this battle, which is going to be the Kakashi, Might Guy, and Naruto versus Obito fight, which strangely enough in this timeline is probably going to be either having the assistance of Nagato because he wouldn't be dead in this timeline, Or the more likely option, Obito would have taken Nagato's eyes and probably still gone through with the plan, having one Rinnegan in one eye and his Mangekyo Sharingan in the other. So this is when we would end up getting Naruto going on toe to toe with Pain Obito, as we would have a battle of titans playing out. Naruto would speed blitz him so fast that just due to the speed that he displays in Danger Sense in tandem with it, Naruto would be able to dodge every single one of Obito's blows. No matter how close it was to landing, Naruto's speed in combination with Gear Shift and Fajin would be able to slow down just enough and speed up enough to be able to avoid attacks. Whenever Naruto was about to run into an attack via dodging and going straight into it, Naruto would use Gear Shift to lower his speed and not be hit by the attacks. Whenever Obito's attack was coming in hot, Naruto would use Fajin to move his head out of the way and be a very unpredictable fighter. This would ultimately come to its conclusion when Kakashi's presence there would finally show its merit. Having a linked eye with Obito, this would prove fatal for the dude. And with Naruto being able to go into the Kamui dimension and help Kakashi inside of there, Naruto would start to deal real damage to Obito. Meanwhile, a 7th gate guy and Kakashi in the outside world would start to throw hands with Obito. With his entire phasing ability being taken out of the mix, Obito would suddenly become a lot less dangerous, and the ones that he would mainly focus on fighting would be Kakashi and Guy, because he stands much more of a better chance against those two than anyone else. It's at this point that Obito's defeat would pretty much be set in stone, and finally, Madara would arrive to the scene. This is when Kakashi, using his Mangekyo ability, would open a portal into the Kamui dimension, dragging Naruto back since they need all the help they can get, and the final stand would be against a Madara who doesn't even have the 10 Tails power absorbed yet. So, going against a massively weakened version of Madara Uchiha, they're able to absolutely decimate him, with Naruto and Madara having a fight kind of similar to the one of Might Guy and 10 Tails Madara, in the sense that Naruto's speed and brute force would be able to just absolutely decimate Madara, leading to him telling Naruto that he is the strongest. And funny enough, Naruto is way more powerful than 8 Gates Guy in this moment. It's actually ludicrous how strong the dude is without Sage of Six Paths power and without even using any of the influence of the 9 Tails in this moment. Naruto genuinely, over the course of the last bit of training, just by using Sage Mode in tandem with One For All and Gear Shift and Fajin, Naruto would be a top tier hitter. I think if I'm being real, just as strong as the one that gets power granted to him by Hagoromo because of the crazy amp that is One For All. And with Sage Mode strengthening his body, Naruto's finally able to tap into a 100% Detroit Smash, naming the attack that, after the person that's pretty much given him his power, Deku. So landing the final blow on Madara and destroying every single bit and piece of Madara's body, this would ultimately lead Madara to not even being like a sealed or anything like that, but his entire body gets destroyed, Perfect Cell style. And with that being the case, the war would pretty much be over, because once Sasuke would end up coming to his conclusions after meeting Hashirama Senju, he would kind of understand, okay, if I try to fight Naruto, I could straight up die. I mean, he knows Naruto won't kill him, but he also knows that he stands no chance. So we don't get that whole crazy stuff happening in the end, and unfortunately, we don't even get Sasuke awakening his Rinnegan. But ladies and gentlemen, that is where I'm going to be ending What If Naruto Had One For All. Let me know down below in the comments what you guys thought about this video, seeing as it took me a couple of days to make, and please, please, please leave a like on the video, seeing as it helps videos like this do so much better in the algorithm, and more people can start getting back into the niche of what ifs. But with that being said, shout out to Azuma for commissioning this video. It has been your boy Xehther, and I love each and every single one of you guys, and I am out. Peace.